Hello and welcome to Pubgmobile Club Open. This is going to be an incredible two-day affair where we're going to be starting off the journey. But before we jump into the details of the said perfect 2 days, we of course are introduced with Necro, who's going to be our caster joining us. Of course, I'm going to be your analyst and caster as well. But Necro, dude, overall, this is going to be an exciting time as we've got so many regions. So many of these teams have made some incredible remarks in the past few days, eh?
I mean, they have, I'm not going to lie, fighting it out from top 32 and making it to top 16. True. That's quite huge in itself. And currently we're in the dark zone, Blotter. This is the underdogs. And this is where the shining diamonds, the bright diamonds will just straight up being forged all the way from the darkness. So this is what we're waiting for, Blotter. That one team who's going to be an absolute insane. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's going to be top 3 teams from each and every single region who are going to be moving on forward if I'm not wrong.
True, that is absolutely correct indeed. As you so perfectly mentioned, we've got 3 teams that will be moving on from Nepal, 3 teams moving on from Pakistan, as well as from South Asia itself, where we do have teams joining us from Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and again, I mean, the domination that has been showcased, as Necro just mentioned, in the 32 teams that were part of. I mean, it was a spot-on conversation to be had when it came down to the way the teams progressed on, the storyline they created. But hey, Necro, I mean, we were talking about this in the green room as well, dude. This time around, they've only got 10 games total, right? 5 games today, 5 games tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. That's all the opportunity that they will be provided with. And again, I mean, it's going to be, as we were talking about it, a few maybe jittery plays from the first or the second match, perhaps.
I mean, only 2 days, 5 games in the hand, 10 games in total, Blotter. Not a lot of chance for errors, not a lot of room for error. I do understand at the start you're definitely going to be having those jittery, the dopamine is going to be flowing through your veins, but you've got to keep your hands steady because 10 games in hands, 2 days, that's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time. That is so true indeed. And with that, of course, let's move on ahead and talk about, well, the prize pool itself, where indeed we talk about the 32 teams that were part of this sensational journey. And the 32 teams did participate in the total prize pool of 50,000, where indeed we are still to find out what the top 16 scorecard is going to look like. But hey, as we can clearly see from the 17th all the way down to the 32nd, respectively, we've got the teams walking away with a little bit of money, a lot of experience. So hey, nothing taken away from them.
Yeah, indeed. Nothing really taken away from those teams, but still $50,000 on the line. That's something these teams are going to be fighting out as well. I mean, I do understand top 3 teams from every single region are going to be qualifying on forward, but you still need to understand it's top 3. That means if you're going to be somewhere in the top 3 of this entire PMCO, you're also going to be able to get that nice cash money in your hands. But now we're also probably going to be taking a look at the squad rosters, the team that are going to be duking it out today inside the entire PMCO. This is going to be an absolute wreckfest.
But before we do, of course, have to talk about the points as well, mate, because indeed the points that have been accumulated in the 32 affair saga that was previously spoken about, well, there were a lot of them that, again, I mean, you know what, whenever there's Mongolia involved, you know for a fact that one of those teams is always going to be there that will be racking up those numbers in terms of the elimination points. And again, that elimination point is the most crucial, viewers, because indeed that leads, or rather ends up giving you with that 1 point elimination per kill.
Man, as always, Equinox, I mean, they are one of those Mongolian teams and they have been dominating the entire scene, especially in the top 32 as well. If I'm not wrong, Equinox had like 127 kills with 217 total points in the top 32, and that's quite a huge statement. As you guys did see the point structure, elimination points as something that my eyes are always locked on because I'm a man of aggression. I absolutely love when these teams just go all guns blazing.
Absolutely, mate. And as you were just talking about that a few moments ago, we've got the squad roster on our screen, and right off the bat, we're going to talk about Equinox 922, a team that, of course, did perform really, really well. Got 3 chicken dinners, right? And of course, as Necro was mentioning, the elimination points that they've been able to rack up, the plays that they were able to make. But hey, after that is, of course, ISSL Noob Alliance, but which again, I mean, they weren't that far behind, Necro.
Exactly, they weren't really that far behind, but I'm not gonna lie, inside this entire competition, my eyes are definitely gonna be like big time on Deadeye's Gangsters, because I'm not gonna lie, this is one of those teams that has been known for a long time now. They have been competing for a long time, decent amount of time, but they are still one of those underdog teams out here. As I said, every single team inside this competition is an underdog. And Blotter, just like how we noticed this in PMPL as well, right? The same thing has to be in PMCO too. At the start, there are going to be some of those teams that are trying to hide their tactics, just trying to qualify to the grand finals. And when they do in the grand finals, then they're probably just going to whip out those MasterCards.
Absolutely, mate. And just to add on to another point, when it came down to the Gangsters' approach to the entire play that has been showcased till now in the 32 teams, we did see them walk away with the third spot with only one chicken dinner. So that views itself clearly indicates why Necro is, picking up the team and talking about that perfect sort of an approach from their side. But hey, that's not the only team. As we move through these squad rosters, we've of course got the best of the best joining in again. But hey, after all, when it comes down to the Nepal region, also we have to bring up that name because well, we've got so many teams that have qualified, Necro.
Exactly. I mean, for example, now let's just talk about the Mongolia region in general. We have seen them fight in the PMPLs, not just now, even in the past, and they have been one of the most dominating region in the entire South Asia. And Mongolia is something that we cannot really ignore on. So let's talk about the Mongolian teams that are going to be duking it out inside this entire PMCO. Equinox is a Mongolian team. Then you also have Doom Esports coming in, another Mongolian team. And I personally do want to see what these two Mongolian teams have got in their backpack to just demolish all the other teams.
Absolutely, mate. And as we move on through to the final list, the final squads that are going to be part of this 20 teams, we are going to be looking at Raw Soldiers team joining us from Nepal, along with Grim Gaming Esports, again a team from Nepal, Rex and RCD from Sri Lanka, and HellRaisers HR from Pakistan. Now, so many of these names, so many of these players have, of course, been in the limelight, have been really, really sensational. But now, as we were mentioning earlier, we've only got 2 days. We're only looking at 10 games in total. And right off the bat, let's get started off with the schedule itself, where indeed 5 games will be played. As was discussed, 3 of them will be on Erangel. So that soft spot is going to be there for all of these teams available.
I mean, again, I'm not going to lie, there's going to be quite a lot of jitters for these teams. They haven't really fought in such a high stake environment. So I do understand there's going to be a lot of pressure, but we talked about this, Blotter. 2 days in your hands, not a lot of time to mess it up, not a lot of room for error as well, and you've got to keep your hands steady and make sure every single move you make has to be perfection. But still, I'm not going to lie, I might just let the first 3 games pass by because I'll give these teams a pass, but after that, I'm going to start being critical on these teams.
Honestly, that's exactly what I'm looking at as well. The first 2 games easily are going to be like giveaways to the teams as they try and understand each other as they progress on, right? But after all, only 10 games, so you can only give them, or rather teams themselves can only give themselves that much headroom, to play around with when it comes to a 2-day affair. And they need to bring it A-level performance from the start itself to be able to just rack on those numbers. And another point that always needs to be mentioned, of course, Necro, in these pre-game segments is the consistency. Right, the consistency is something that we've seen again and again. Teams are not really relying upon or not able to rely upon, but the teams that are, they just keep on rocking and climbing slowly and steadily. They find themselves in the top 3 to the top 1st position as well.
I mean, talk about all these stuff, right, Blotter? I mean, now we have to focus on these underdog teams. Now, coming to these underdog teams, we don't exactly know how the playing pattern is going to be. And there's going to be so much problem for these teams as well to study themselves. I do want to see what they've got prepared, though. There has to be some sort of preparation. There has to be some sort of playing pattern these teams will try to keep on the deck.
Oh, definitely. Again, I mean, as we were talking about it earlier as well, right? We were looking at 32 teams in total. And then from that number, the numbers have dwindled down to 20. That indeed will be dwindling down further to 16, the top 16 in the top 2-day affairs. So, yeah, a lot that they have actually experienced against each other playing in the lobby of that 32. But overall, this is the defining moment for these teams. So they have to start changing the approach that they're going to be bringing this time around. And look at that right off the bat.
But this is where you ask yourself too, right, Blotter, is that do you have a lot of time to change the approach? Have you got enough amount of practice that you're actually going to be able to change the approach and get successful results with it as well? Because sometimes sticking to the basics has to be the strategy to go as well, especially those small sort of events where you only have 2 days to play around with. Unless if you have a lot of time to play, unless if you're a lot confident in your firepower as well, then you can try and implement some new strats around it.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't really have said it any better indeed. But looking at that flight path, of course, we are starting off from the military base, moving up towards Lipovka, and looking at the way the flight path itself has been set up right now, it is definitely a southern dominating flight path that, of course, restricts the movement of a lot of these teams to be able to move up north towards Georgia or towards the other side of Stalbok Kemeshki region as well, towards the far east. And that indeed does define, or rather restrict, as you so perfectly mentioned, the dynamic approach that they might have anticipated. But yeah, that's the X factor for the battlegrounds. Of course, every single time that these teams are expecting, the PUBG gods are going to be given an unexpected approach with the zone as well as the flight path. There we go.
I mean, the zone is something that I would say it's not going to be that problematic for teams. It should be an easy way to get in. So I'm not really expecting a lot of early game brawls, unless if it's because the plane flight path, it definitely has screwed over a lot of teams. Even Yas Napoleana is going to be one of the most toughest location to get inside. And this is what we're seeing. Yeah, a lot of teams just locking their horns. They do see the players just flying around in the sky, but they don't have the weapons to take them down. So every single team will make a mature decision and try to go towards their drop locations and get those guns, get that loot secured.
Absolutely, mate.
As we do have BY7 and Grim right next to each other. Sujal. I mean, still there is a decent amount of distance between them, but the problem is BY7, they cannot really afford a man all by himself in that territory because it's now an enemy territory. And considering he's all by himself between a pack of hyenas, it's going to be tough to survive that one. Three on one. Currently, Roshan, it seems like he's just going to straight up back out. And again, these players are on a hunt. They definitely do want the blood on their hands, and it makes a lot of sense to having a first blood should give you a huge confidence booster in this entire tournament. BY7, Roshan still trapped behind that little rock trying to fight back, but he's all by himself. First, the cavalry. The cavalry is seen a little bit in the mini-map, but oh, the back's exposed, and that's going to be more than enough for Mr. Zrox to capitalize. An instant knockout, and the confirmation should be flowing in too. But the rest of the cavalry is still in the back lines. They do not really want to step inside the battlefield. As Grim Gaming Esports, they're looking really dominant right off the bat. And we talked about this, an absolute breakfast, and we're off to a great start so far. Even the plane flat path in the mix too, just throwing nice curveballs on these teams. Just making these teams push out of their comfort zone. They cannot really stay inside their comfort zone with a plane flight path like that. And we talked about this. These teams are also lacking on quite a lot of experience when it comes to the pro play, because these are not some of those teams that we cast in or that we see in those PMPLs, that we see in the PMGC. These are some of those teams that are looking to make their name on that sort of a high table yet. And these are still the underdogs, looking to fight back, looking to fight up to the ladder and make it their name. There has to be at least one bright diamond in here, in this lobby, or at least not more than one maybe, who are capable of fighting some of the best teams out there in the world and who are capable of giving it all they have. Every single team in here, without a doubt, they've gave it their best. They've shown what they're capable of to come up till this top 16. And as we mentioned, every single region, top 3 from every single region are going to be qualifying in for the future stakes. Circle, the first circle still on our screens. And yeah, every single team, as we were talking about this, they're going to try to go towards their drop location, secure their loot, some safe amount of loot, and then maybe try and traverse inside the next zone. Before now, these teams are just waiting for the next circle to hit the deck, and that's when they will try to make a nice navigation around the area. Roar 2 on the Gatka side. Nothing much to worry about. Teams that are currently right in the center near Pochinki, they don't really need to worry about a lot of things. They can just sit in there for a really long time. Rex 2 all the way in Fair Pier. Maybe they have a chance to camp teams like Equinox out. And talk about Equinox, one of the biggest threat in the entire lobby. Equinox, as I talked about this, in the top 32 overall rankings, Equinox had 127 kills. The team that could get the closest in the elimination bracket was ISSL Noob Alliance with 90 elimination. That's the closest a team could get to Equinox in that elimination point bracket. So Equinox, when you talk about the firepower, they're absolutely excelling in that bracket. But maybe sometimes some of the best teams which have a great firepower, they lack a little bit of sense of passiveness. They lack a little bit of sense of strategy. And that's what some of these teams can try and capitalize on and try and abuse. And try and just cut off the rotation here. Equinox, they like to kick things off in military base. And that's what they're doing so far. Still trying to move around, not really being that eager. They do realize they're still barely inside the zone on the edges. Maybe they like to play on the edges of the zone. Maybe they like to play on the outskirts. Maybe that's how their play style is. The mango on our screens for Nepali boys. I'm pretty sure Nepal region will have a lot of their eyes locked on these teams. If I'm not wrong, there's quite a lot of Nepali teams in here. Yep, there's 7 Nepal teams currently playing inside this entire competition, and it's quite a huge number in itself. A huge fan base, too, from that region in general, so they've got a lot of eyes just locked onto them. A lot to prove for these teams, a lot to prove for these players in general, but not a lot of experience to back it up. But if I talk about Deadeye's Gangster, they definitely are one of those teams that have played in such high stakes in the past too, and they are one of those teams that can excel in these stakes as well. We have seen players like Sean coming in the past too. He has had a lot of experience. He has played a lot of tournaments in the past as well, so those type of players definitely do help out a team in making some of these top numbers for at least the overall rankings. Brilliance was one of those teams that did quite okay-ish actually in the top 16. They had 61 placement points and total points of 115 in the top 32. A decent finish from their side, but still they will need to put on something better if they do want that prize pool at least in their hands. Brilliance, again, as we did mention, 12 matches were played in total from these teams. And a lot to lose. Just 2 days, a lot to lose, a lot of eyes on you, not a lot of room for error. The dopamine indeed is going to be flowing through your veins, but you've still got to keep your hands steady no matter what. And I'm pretty sure these players, some of these underdog players or underdog teams in general, they have some hidden talent. And that's what we're here to find out, which is going to be that, which are going to be those teams that will be able to fight against some of the best teams in the top currently. And you talk about some of the best teams at the top, has to be Stalwart Esports. I mean, the way they dominated the entire SA Championship too, PMPL, SA as well. Stalwart Esports is on a whole nother league. Equinox maybe is one of those teams that is doing really good in the firepower in this lobby. We haven't really seen any other team getting even close to Equinox. Maybe 90 elimination was the closest, which was Noob Alliance. But Brilliance over here in Pachinki, looking pretty comfy so far. Rex too in front of our screens, and Doom. As I mentioned, at least at the first circle, we're not going to be seeing a lot of action happen. The actual action is going to start later on, and here we go. Talk about the action, speak of the devil. And Nishan already from the side of Deadeye's Gangster, just taking a little bit of shots, just peppering down some bullets in the front. No connections found, but at least that's going to be something that will ship those teams away and show Deadeye's Gangster's presence in the nearby vicinity. Looking to drive around, and you can clearly see the confidence that Deadeye's Gangsters have in this lobby. And makes sense, as I've said, they've had a decent amount of experience compared to all the other teams. Deadeye's Gangsters, they can clearly be one of those teams that will be able to at least stay in the top 3 or maybe potentially win this entire event too. GOZA ESports, Cyclone, just driving around near the bridge. Does realize there's a huge chance that he might just be camped out. Airdrop one's going to hit the deck, and this time it's going to be the MG3, the light machine gun, with a little bit of upgrades if the teams do want to go for it. Feel the peace of the Erangel, because soon this is about to turn into a bloodshed where every single team will need to show it their best. And if you are going to have the momentum in your hand after the first game, that's going to help you boost your confidence up so much. Getting that first ever game as a chicken dinner, that'll also help you get rid of those jitters big time. Sundash in front of our screens. Chrome indeed taking a little bullets. We're way too close to enemy territory, but luckily, no casualty, no damage taken yet. Flames 1 Alpha Boy. Around the same area. Including Asha 2. Just trying to eye out the players in the front. Do exactly know there is someone available on top of the hill, but haven't really gotten a clear line of sight yet. Still, though, these teams have positioned themselves surprisingly quite in the open, and there might be a chance that they might just be getting shot in the back. Flames 1 don't exactly know how to play this one out. And this is what I said, right? You can clearly see the way these teams are playing. A huge lack of confidence. And still, you can understand, like, if you try to compare their gameplay to some of the best teams out there, you can definitely find a lot of loopholes around to take these teams down. And still, this is why I said they lack a lot of awareness, a lot of experience that some of the best teams have currently in the world. The next circle is going to move on over towards Gatka, a little bit down to the southern side. That means teams now will need to just try and get inside, and this is where you see the floodgates open from the right side of the entire circle, as you do see a huge wave of vehicles moving inside the zone. MAKPEN is already in, while you do see the rest of the team still moving in. DG, Deadeye's Gangsters 2 is right there. Equinox still trying to make it in all the way from the right side. One of those teams that likes to enter the zone pretty late. We do see a little bit of gunshots. And this time it's going to be ISSL. Noob Alliance actually going against the players of Deadeye's Gangsters. And Q-Wyatt is able to take out one of those players. Jimmy falls down, but unfortunately, Deadeye's Gangsters too, they've got a casualty on their side. Players taken down quite low. Lucifer is as well in the front lines. But ISSL Noob, the position they've got themselves is not something they can heavily rely on. Another player goes down. Deadeye's Gangster just doing some light work on the players of ISSL Noob. And easily they're able to just wipe them out the game. Deadeye's Gangster, they make it look so easy with just 3 players available. But they're able to rule a 4-man squad out so easily. Just not even breaking a sweat. Calm, cool, collected.
Composed, resilient, reliant every single time is what the Gangsters are, of course, known as. And Necro, you pointed out perfectly, dude. And as soon as the game started, this team was on the roll, and that's exactly what they're defining right here in the first game, with, of course, the 4 elimination points, along with the way that they've been able to, progress on to get those 4 eliminations itself is so synergistic, so beautiful to witness. And that's the reason why they were sitting on that 3rd spot, right? I mean, the consistency, talking about the placement points sitting at 91, along with the 89 elimination points that they were able to accumulate in the 32 teams lobby. I mean, yeah, you were so on point. But it seems like the Gangsters themselves have a little bit of an issue going on right here as they try and leave this area where Nixon has been dropped down. And, of course, his teammates, Q-Watt, was not able to really help out.
Unfortunately, though, Nixon gets taken out. Deadeye's Gangster now. And a little bit of trouble. They will need to try and find a way out of that one. Quite a tricky situation. Equinox is the one they've locked their eyes on. And Deadeye's Gangster, they cannot really afford to be on the target of Equinox.
Oh, they definitely should not. And again, though, when it comes down to the sheer power of the team of Equinox 992, I mean, we've seen that based on the play that they were able to accumulate for the points that they got, right, in terms of elimination. So 127, that means that every single time that team of Equinox sees a fight happening or hears one around them, they will be pushing on. But hey, it seems like there's a different story to be told right here on the smaller hill, where we do have these 2 taking on some shots against each other. But the biggest surprise of this entire fact is that Sandesh has been brought down. The X factor for the team so many times, the flank angle creator, has been dropped down, and this gives Grim Gaming a little bit of a backseat approach along with their position on this hill, which is going to be on the downward slope.
Talk about a downward slope, but Grim, a little bit of uphill battle for them to fight this one out. But even you see Power Brilliance, they're not really just straight up moving in. They're taking their sweet little time to try and find out a way to fight this one. Smokes are definitely scattered all across the board in this. But Power Brilliance, they don't just straight up want to book it in and try to get some elimination points because they do realize the grounds are quite open and you might just get shot in the back anytime. Deadeye's Gangsters as well, again, now in the receiving end. Something needs to be done. The position they found themselves in is quite tricky and is quite discomforting, as you do have Roar Soldiers spotting out quite a risky rotation from the side of Power Brilliance and trying to take them down too. It's just mowing down the fields in the front, but no connections, Water.
No connections as of yet, but hey, it seems like we spoke too soon because the factor of them taking on those shots has definitely figured into a perfect approach, where indeed it was Rex, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who were on the receiving end. But it seems like DG, they were caught off guard in this small little shack, and one by one, they were dropped down to their knees and eliminated from this entire lobby. So that's not looking good for their side, even though they did walk away with a decent amount of points. But hey, we've still got 53 players remaining. A lot of opportunities to accumulate a lot of points compared to just the sheer 4 that they were able to walk away with.
4 Nepali boys. Just tossing in some nades, tossing in some utilities to see if they're going to be able to find some connection. Player's taken down quite low, but it's still barely hanging on onto his health, but finally will crumble down. Eventually, taking out the game. Weck is not going to be seen anymore. Equinox, they have a real good control of the map too, but the team that they will need to worry about, there's a team right next to him. And that's going to be a huge threat for Equinox, and they cannot really afford to be in that sort of a position anymore. And yep, this is exactly what I'm saying. Equinox getting dismantled slowly and steadily. Too many angles to check, and now Equinox, they're kind of confused.
Well, Necro, how the tides have turned. It seems like the 32 lobby that this team played against Equinox, that is, their opponents definitely have understood them, and that early aggression that was anticipated from their side was definitely there, but it seems like it was just pushed on a bit too much, and that has pushed them in a very, very weird spot right here in the middle of these 2 teams, in fact 3 teams all around, and they've got no cover to help themselves out with. But along with that, that's not the only thing, right? In terms of the storyline, it's the exact same way the Gangsters were eliminated as well just a few minutes ago, being caught off guard in the open, and then they were just eliminated one by one. But it seems like having the numbers advantage right here in terms of the number of teams surrounding Equinox has helping them out, because they're actually able to utilize this opportunity to still get all of their 4 players survive in and just slowly, low-key bringing in some damage from one side to the other. But yeah, the effort that they're pushing in is definitely valiant, but will it result to them walking out of the situation?
At this point in time, it's just time to wrap up elimination points. Players are scattered all over the board. And if you see anyone just proning around and trying to get back to safety, this is your time to take them out easily and get that elimination point secured for yourself. Equinox so far, 1 elimination points. No, they're actually able to recover pretty well too. All 4 players up for Equinox. Looking pretty good so far. We do have 4 Nepali boys spotting out Equinox again. Still applying a lot of pressure on Equinox. Equinox cannot really just peek their heads out anymore. Michael G is just doing such a great job of pinning those players.
He definitely is.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the map indeed, but it comes down to both these teams, right? 4 Nepali boys as well as Equinox. They're both coming in from the eastern side, and that is that one angle that one of these teams are going to be able to walk away with. Or if we actually look on to the southern side, there is another team that could very well be them pushing down. But hey, never mind that, because it seems like HellRaisers have pushed on to get their own southwestern side of the zone as of now, with these players pushing on through to that small little shack. All right, for now, that's going to be okay because they're sitting on the edge, but pushing on through that angle has not allowed them too much of an advantage, because as soon as the zone shifts, their information has been compromised. As we can clearly see, Brilliance, Aryan has got his crosshairs set up exactly to where HellRaiser's shack is set up and going to be. But again, for Brilliance as well, it is going to be a tough situation, because the zone is just pushing all these teams out in the open, and no team has the kind of cover that they would want to be able to walk off. But right now, Brilliance trying to have opportunity, bring on this opportunity into those elimination points. As of now, they've got none, but seems like this is the moment for them to be able to capitalize upon. We did see this team a few minutes ago as they were taking on shots on that hill, but now it seems like finally that Valiant affair is going to be resulting in them walking away with points. At least one has been eliminated, or rather 1 point has been given to them, but along with that, at what cost is to be asked, because they've got 2 of their players down and they themselves are actually separated as well. So to be able to give that cover is going to be tough luck for Brilliance for now.
Exactly, MAKPEN 2 in front of our screens, and got a little bit of battle to play around with. A little dip that might just help him. F1 right in the front. Have they spotted the presence of the team? And there you go. Goku finally spotted out the slithering snake. This time it's not going to be able to stay alive anymore. MAKPEN doing a great job with those eagle eyes.
They definitely are. As of now, just 1 elimination point have been accumulated from their side, but this is the moment that they're going to be start trying to at least push on those numbers. As of now, when it comes down to the way that they are set up in the zone itself, of course, all these teams are at the edge, but MAKPEN themselves have themselves surrounded. With one side, it's going to be F1. Behind them is going to be HellRaisers. And again, MAKPEN right behind, we can see in the mini-map, is another team as well in teal. And that is going to be tough opportunity for this side. But hey, look at that. We've got a small little hill that's going to be helping out MAKPEN, at least for now, against their 6 o'clock.
F1 still 2 players up, Joker and Alpha Boy. Brilliance, unfortunately, weren't really able to withstand the amount of damage that was being inflicted onto them, so they will eventually fall down. Rex NRC gets eliminated too. A lot of teams now are starting to get eliminated. 8 teams in total, 23 players alive. F1 Alpha Boy still taking little shots, but MAKPEN is something that F1 really needs to watch out because they are making a lot of sound, and MAKPEN definitely knows that F1 is right in the front.
They ought to. They definitely ought to. I mean, they did get that slithering snake, as you had said and pointed out earlier, but that information, I'm not entirely sure if MAKPEN has been able to keep in the back of their heads or not. As of now, F1 themselves have a lot of trouble because they've only got a 2-man army, and MAKPEN, it seems like they did not keep that information in mind in the back of their heads, and that resulting has damaged them quite severely as they have been caught out behind that hill. And not only that, they themselves have 2 of their players down, so a very difficult position for them to be able to walk away from it. All thanks to F1's Coral Joker. But hey, you better be careful as well, mate, because you have a teammate that has been dropped down as well. Alpha Boy will be probably lost to the cause because this is going to be a pretty long 100-meter run for Joker to be able to get his teammate as well as himself in the safety of the zone.
Talk about the safety of the zone. The ball of death now is going to be moving in too. Joker is not going to be able to get the fallen man back up. Yes, so let him go. Brilliance just mowing the field up in the front. They're able to find 2 easy eliminations too to wrap it up. Brilliance doing a great job in the elimination aspect as they're able to wrap up some more. And it seems like he's not going to be stopped any soon. He's just able to get these elimination points one after the other. A lot of teams are rotating out in the open too because of no other option. The circle has played a cruel game.
Oh, it has played a sinister one for this being the first game. But hey, look at that. Equinox, you really have to give them credit for. They have been out in the open for a really long time. But slowly and surely, here they are in the top 6 with their players still surviving. Of course, there is an elimination that we can see, but we know for a fact that that revival will be given. But then, compared to the other teams that are still part of this top 6, we can clearly see now. I mean, the numbers advantage is what I was going for, but indeed, Equinox looking really, really healthy.
They indeed are. Still, though, 6 teams live in total, 13 players remaining. Look at what East is trying to do here. Sitting on top of the buggy, scouting out the areas around him, having that smoke covering him too, but as soon as the smoke fades away, that might be something that will worry him. And he can try to use the buggy as a cover to play around. Equinox, again, just inflicting pain and hurt on the lobby. Teams will need to watch out from a team like Equinox. Doom currently, they have 3 players up. Unfortunately, DME got knocked out. Still bleeding out quite a lot. Cannot really afford him to be knocked out like that. Sile is still bleeding out. Doom, they're going to have a lot of pressure to get the fallen man back up. But there we go. Finally, the elimination part Brilliance was really looking out for. This man is able to wrap up so many points. It's insane.
Indeed it is, because when it comes to Menka and the position that he's at, that track, he's been firing from that since such a long time, and nobody, absolutely no other team has been able to retaliate. But hey, look at this. Now we've got a team that is definitely looking very, very hungry, with 14 elimination points already confirmed for their side. 14 points confirmed in terms of just elimination, and they are still not yet done, where indeed Doom ESP is threading Doom in this lobby. But Brilliance not that far behind, but that is going to be tough for them, because they have a two-man squad against this entire Doom fight.
There we go, Brilliance again. This man is unstoppable. Doom ESP got taken out with 15 eliminations, Blotter. That's insane. And now we have Brilliance. This man himself, yeah, the single man himself has gotten so many points and all by himself. It's insane. He's been proven out to be an absolute disaster.
You should
for
have pointed
all
it
the
out
other
as
teams.
well. See, what I'm noticing right now is, as soon as they spoke about Doom gets eliminated. They were looking really good, right? As soon as they started pushing, it was Brilliance that came up on top. And now, as soon as you bring up this team, well, GG indeed. So they go down as well. But with that, 3 teams remaining, Equinox still looking pretty good in terms of the numbers, working for themselves. F1's Joker is definitely utilizing that opportunity and getting that information relayed based on the smoke. But in all of that, look at that cool play coming in from TEG, as he is not giving away any audio cues. And Equinox, they best be careful.
Top 3 teams alive and 4 players in total remaining. Equinox having a huge advantage, but unfortunately the man gets spotted out. He got sniffed out. Confirmation 2 will follow it up instantly. And now Equinox, they're going to be in a state of discomfort, as Kinozos doesn't know how to exactly reposition himself. Kenzaz is going to have a lot of pressure now. His position's compromised too. Both these teams are going to be straight up looking in his direction. One little pixel exposed and Kenzaz will be taken out.
You know, from Joker's side, I'm looking at this flank angle that he could probably get out in. But again, I mean, that small little dirt road that he'll have to cross to get out behind towards the right-hand side right now on our screens is going to be a vehicle that Joker could maybe go back to create that sort of a flank. But like I said, I mean, that small little dirt road out in the open is going to be maybe tough for him to get away from TEG's player. And I mean, just perfect name coming in for the gameplay being showcased from the side of the end game, because they are bringing in an end game to this play. But it seems like before we reach on to the end, these 3 are going to be taking a slow snail pace before we jump in, and they're going to be waiting for that zone to try and get them closer and closer. For now, they're all of them, in fact, as we can see, Equinox as well as F1 Joker were waiting and holding on as long as they possibly could to that cover. But right now, Equinox definitely has that small little advantage in terms of the slope that is right in front of him. But that is not the case for Joker, as he's got nothing.
Indeed, and look at team end game. Just straight up mowing down in the front. Equinox now. Molotov tossed in. Kenzas, he spots out the player in the front. And finally, a one-on-one duel. And this time, it's going to be Equinox to seal the deal. Without a doubt, a team with the best firepower in the entire lobby. Equinox doing a great job, again, to kick things off in the grand finals.
Oh, they definitely are, mate. Look at that. 7 eliminations, total 22 points is what this team's walking away with. But you definitely have to give them credit for the way that they were able to play, because there were so many moments that I honestly thought that, all right, this is probably going to be the end of the play that has been created from Equinox's side. But hey, that's not the case. Their team is very, very resilient, and they have showcased it all over again right off the bat. But again, the lobby is looking like a dominating force. We had Doom walking away with what, 14 elimination points if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 22 points from inside of Equinox. There were quite a lot of teams that have done quite insane. And yeah, as you did mention about Doom too, they had 15 elimination points. And that's huge if you consider, because again, we talked about the jitters, and it seems like Doom, they eat those sort of jitters for breakfast. I mean, don't get me wrong, Blotter. Every single team, even in the higher stakes, even in the PMGC, somewhere down the line, somewhere in the past, they have also been the underdog. And this is the way you start building up a story of the legends.
That is definitely true, mate, because that is the play that has been showcased from their side, and this is what they were probably rooting for and getting out for as well against the entire lobby. They have already played against them. They've really figured out the play style that is going to be working for their side, and again, I mean, start putting themselves in that kind of a disadvantageous position is what I would say in the open farms, and then still be able to walk away with the chicken dinner is just definitely commendable, and let's just hope that that continues on for the side of this Mongolian team.
Exactly. Let's just hope and let's just cross our fingers that that continues on. But for now, let's move on over to the MVP and let's find out who's going to be the man of the hour, who's going to be the man of the match of the previous one. Of course, has to be one of the players from Doom. And without a doubt, it's AX this time, getting 6 elimination for himself, with also 887 damage secured with the survival time of 24-21, 3 assists and 3 knocks. I mean, Doom Esports, they got an insane amount of points, 15 eliminations.
Exactly. That itself is, something to talk about, because when this storyline started for Equinox to be starting to rack up those points in terms of eliminations, I mean, Doom were already sitting at 9 elimination points as they jumped into that open space and still were not yet done. So clearly the MVP towards the right place. But again, I mean, you cannot take away the sheer brilliance being showcased from Brilliance's player as well, right? I mean, from that track, he was he was on top of pretty much everybody as they tried to get into the zone.
Exactly, top players in front of us, and again, AX, of course, with the most eliminations. East is right there too with 3 eliminations in his hands, and then you have Joker coming in with. Oh, East actually has the most amount of damage in the entire top players here, Blotter, if you notice. 1,196 damage secured from this man all by himself. While on the other hand, the guy who was the MVP of the previous game only has 887. Equinox, unfortunately, they weren't really able to wrap up a lot of eliminations, but they were able to inflict so much damage.
Exactly, and that itself is the most important thing. When it comes to the lobby, as it progresses on from one game to the next, everybody's got those jitters. Even in the end, no matter how experienced you are, there are only 10 games. Now they brought down to 9, so every single game, every single elimination, it ends up hurting you a little bit to the cause. But that indeed, for the side of Equinox, is just, as you so perfectly mentioned, I mean, this team, they are here for just that perfect play.
Again, 60, I mean, if you do take a look at the match summary of the entire previous one, and 16 eliminations, of course, with the knockouts at 7-3, and longest elimination of that previous entire game was 315. And look at the total healing splatter of the previous game, 6,548, grenade eliminations, only 2. And this in itself, like, look, Blotter, nothing really taken away from these teams, but this in itself just shows the utility utilization from these teams and how much experience these teams lacks. Because if you do compare these teams to some of the teams that are currently at the top, they usually get so many nade eliminations in the entire game. That's insane, because they prioritize utilities as equal as someone's firepower. And utilities, sometimes they can prove so beneficial to win a gunfight. And this is what I said, every single team, again, don't get me wrong, every single team at a certain point, they were an underdog too. And this is how you build up your story. This is how you try to be one of the best out there. Match rankings of the previous game in front of our screens, and Equinox, of course, leading the entire charts. But what on my mind is just locked on is Doom Esports eliminations. 15 eliminations from the side of Doom Esports.
Exactly. I mean, this nobody could have had a better start than the side of Doom East, because you know what? When you start off into a tournament, you want to be the dominating force. You want to be able to showcase that we are hungry for those points. We are going to do whatever it takes. And Doom ESP did that best. I mean, this is just miraculous, where 15 eliminations and just 6 placement points is what they've got. So, I mean, on the other end, you've got Team Endgame, who came second with 2 eliminations and the 12 placement points.
Exactly, and then you also have Power Brilliance, as I did mention, that one solo survivor from the side of Power Brilliance was doing a great job in that survival aspect of the game, with 8 placement points secured, and then also 9 elimination points secured from that team, with total points of 17. And I'm not going to lie, all the teams that are currently in the first page, at least, they have had a decent start. And as I said, I'm not really going to judge things at least off the first 3 games. I'm going to let the first 3 games slip by, and then later on, I'm going to start being really critical on these teams, because as I said, only 2 days to play around with, not a lot of games to mess around, not a lot of room for error. and you've got to take things as serious as possible. Match rankings, the second page is in front of us, and Rex NRC unfortunately got taken out in 9th place with not a lot to finish out with, fallen 5-2 with 0 placement points and 3 eliminations only. Then you have Prime, unfortunately, with 0 eliminations, 0 placement. And that's something that might just hurt a little bit of Prime's mentality, because Team Prime, how many games more left? You only have 9 more games left in your hands, and you've got to make sure you make the most out of it.
Dude, look at ISSL Noob Alliance. They're sitting on that 15th position. I mean, this is a team that were second in the 32 lobby, and right now, to start the day off, they haven't had that sort of a play working for themselves with only 210 damage, along with that 1 elimination point. But again, I mean, we did talk about that. You know what? This is going to be the start of the day. First 2 games are going to be the games where a few of these teams are going to be trying to figure out each other and their playstyle. But that's not the case for Doom as well as Equinox, as they've got some incredible towers of their own in terms of the damage graph, in terms of the damage that they've been able to showcase against their opponents.
Exactly. I mean, the damage graph over here, Doom Esports is, of course, leading the charts in all the aspects. Equinox, unfortunately, I feel like the position that Equinox had in the entire game, that was something that was really holding Equinox back. But still, Equinox proving that they're not just really good when it comes to the firepower, but they're also really good at making decisions on the fly. And they made the decision to keep their heads down and try and play as safe as possible.
Exactly, and that was very crucial of their play, because indeed they were caught out in the open, and if they would have taken on that sort of aggressive approach in that place, and it would have definitely faltered down from their side. But again, I mean, that is just the first game coming to an end. We've still got 4 more games for the day, of course, as we have a Wrangle that will be played again. But before we jump into Wrangle, it is time to move on to Miramar itself. And moving on to Miramar means let's bring up the schedule. Their first game is done for. We've got the team or teams that have really showcased the sheer power of their brilliance. But another point that I want to bring up, Necro, is going to be, all right, well, perfect. Equinox had a really good game, but will they be able to push on with this sort of zeal, you know, every single game? Or do you perhaps think that they're probably going to take it easy on this upcoming map of Miramar?
Well, I mean, talk about the upcoming map of Miramar. Indeed, a huge change in the pace for these teams, right? One of the big maps out there, biggest maps out there currently in the entire competitive pool. And now, moving on to Miramar, I want to see how these teams will try to adapt from Wrangle to Miramar, because that's a huge adaptation. And why I'm really pressuring on this point here is because, as I've said, these teams don't really have a lot of experience that they've played in such high stakes. And a little bit of pressure, a little bit of thing that will add a lot of pressure on these teams. There's a chance that these teams might just crumble or crack under that pressure.
True, that is very, very true indeed, because every single time that you jump into these matches, there is always, you know, that the buttery fingers, so to say, jittery fingers, as you pointed out earlier as well. And every single game is going to feel like that, because every single time it is a different play style. It is all based on which side is going to be the zone, which side are you comfortable at, and how exactly are you able to, you know, turn those opportunities that are not looking too good for you into your advantage. And that is something that Equinox did so brilliantly in the first game. I mean, Doom, they just had it working for themselves in terms of all the sheer power that they were able to bring in terms of bringing on elimination points. But I've seen this again and again in different regions as well, right? When it comes down to them having to push through select number of days, but so many matches, the perfect approach that these teams are anticipating, it kind of just slowly but surely falls down. You know, first game they've had really well, third game goes really good, and then the fourth one, all right, and the fifth one, it's like pretty much like, all right, I'm done. I want a little bit of a break, but hey, you cannot take a break, because it's all about being absolutely crisp and clear every single time you jump into the battleground.
And yeah, talk about breaks, not a lot of time too, so you've got to make it count, man. I'm mentioning this over and over again because you need to understand 2 days is nothing, man. You've got nothing in your hands anymore. It's like these games will just fly away like this. You've got to make every single minute, every single second count. Every single elimination point will count. and even 1 point will count in here, because I've seen a lot of tournaments in the past where that one single point, that one single marker makes a huge difference, and that might just decide who's going to be the glorifying one and who's going to be the loser.
Absolutely, and just to add on to that, just talk about it in general, right? Let's talk to the viewers themselves. So, for example, if we're just sitting down to have a really good game, even if that one elimination point, that we feel should have been ours, but it's taken away, it hurts, right? And this time around, you're talking about teams and players who, again, I mean, they're just humans just like you and I, so they're sitting there with those exact same emotions, heightened. Along on top of that, you got $50,000 on the line, just floating around.
High stakes.
Exactly, I talk about high stakes getting even furthermore. So yeah, I mean, it always is going to be tough situations that these teams are going to be faced with. But yeah, I mean, that's how you're going to find out which one of these is going to be the best to be able to take on at that first in the leaderboard. But along with that, we're also going to find out the top 16, right?
Oh yeah, we already did see the match ranking. So I mean, currently the match
in total, I meant, sorry.
Oh, I mean, the match
I
rankings.
said in total from the 20. My apologies.
I got it. But yeah, I mean, again, we already saw the match rankings. As always, as expected, Equinox is, of course, dominating. They got the chicken dinner, too, with 7 points, 7 elimination points in total, 22 points in the overall 22 points they've gone for, they've acquired. But now, what we saw was Doom Esports starting the day off on 15 eliminations, Blotter. A huge statement from a team like Doom Esports for this entire lobby, that they're here to not mess around, to actually play and show all these teams that what they're capable of.
Absolutely, and as we were discussing as well, when it came down to the way Doom ESP played, I mean, Doom Esports, they had the zone pretty much working for them in terms of the rotation. And, to talk about the zone itself, the first zone, even though it was very generalized, it was very much advantageous for so many of these teams to be able to, capitalize upon. There were a few shifts, but overall, Doom was still looking much better than their counterparts. That was Equinox, is what I would say. But again, I mean, every single team will have their own individual approach that, hey, you know what, Blotter, you're wrong, dude, because the zone didn't favor us as well. I mean, it's true. It definitely could have been the case, but right now in the conversation, it's Doom, because either it be working for you or not, they walk away with 15 elimination points. That's not a joke. That's definitely not a joke. That is just sheer skill power and just confidence boosting and booming through them. So yeah, kudos to them. But let's just say and point it out that I really want to be able to see till the third game where exactly the storyboard is going to be from these teams, and then we can probably start to anticipate, all right, now we know for a fact which side this cookie is going to be crumbling in these 10 games.
I mean, talk about the cookie crumbling. It seems like the cookie is about to crumble soon on the map of Miramar 2, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be heading inside the deserty islands of Miramar, so without wasting any more time, let's just straight up head inside the map of Miramar, where the plane fly path this time is going to be starting all the way from the top left, if I'm not wrong, and all the way towards El Hazahar.
As we do have a look at the flight itself, we are, of course, going to be just in a few months also looking at the drops that these teams are going to be looking forward to and rooting for themselves. Now, again, when it comes to the map of Miramar, we know it's going to be a slow pace, but also going to give a lot of these teams the advantage that they were not able to capitalize upon in the first game. Like, I mean, we talk about the top 16, the table board itself, right? I mean, we're looking at the 15th position taken over by ISSL Noob Alliance, a team that did brilliantly well in the 12 previous games that they played, but this time around were not able to capitalize on the opportunity they were provided for. So maybe, just maybe, Miramar could be the map, or it could be a different game altogether for MAKPEN, for Nepali boys. There is just every single time they jump into map of Miramar an opportunity where indeed the X factor could be approaching towards them. Right, you've got one of few of these teams that move all the way up to the on top of the mountains, and they've got clear sight for as long as the sight can see, and they start dropping players down like flies. So a lot of different plays and ways this zone could maybe go. But all right, this time around we're going to be looking at a zone that will be majorly favored towards the northeastern front. El Azhar looking very good. Junkyard looking very comfortable for MAKPEN as of now, mate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the zone is something that has definitely thrown a huge curveball at these teams, and I do want to see how are these teams going to try to adapt around the zone. As in the previous game, it was the plane fly path who threw a huge curveball, and now this time it's the zone just shifting all the way on the right side of the map. So a little bit of struggle will indeed be seen from El Pozo, Montenuevo, and even Valle del Mar. And one of those teams actually landed near Ruins, near Trailer Park. So this is interesting, Blotter. Not a spot we've seen a lot of teams like to go there.
Hey, it's the end game. You know what? They're looking for that end game. Therefore, they're sticking on to the edge, the far west northern edge of Trailer Park towards Ruins. And you're so true indeed when it comes to Ruins. I mean, you know what? It is a very advantageous place to start things from because of the position of that area of Ruins. But if the zone is further away from you, well, then you've got a race against the clock, basically, right? Because as soon as you've got your loot done, you find your vehicles, you start just zoning in towards the center of the zone. Before you know it, the zone has already moved on towards the second and the third one shift, and that indeed just ends up, you know, like I said, a chase towards the center of the zone for so many of these teams that try and stick to the edges or to the further end of those edges. But again, nothing taken away from this team of the end game because they did do really well in the previous Erangel game, and so maybe could be the case for this one as well. Let's find out. Of course, there's just the few early moments of the match, of the map itself, and all these teams, again, when it comes down to the drop contestations, we're only looking at one or rather two teams at one location that I can see. That way we could maybe have a drop contestation, or not necessarily one, but first blood situation where indeed I am talking about a zone that is or area that's outside the zone. El Pozo. I am just trying to see, we've got the Gangsters there. Is that correct? No.
In El Pozo, we currently have two teams, which are HellRaisers, of course, is one of those, and then we also have Doom Esports in there too. One of those teams that actually dropped a huge elimination games to kick things off. So I'm expecting a team like Doom Esports to at least have less jitters compared to the other teams, and including Equinox too, because they were able to get the chicken dinner flowing in their hands. So again, teams that have had a really good game in Erangel, I'm expecting them to have a little bit of more confidence built up. So the teams that are still on the latter half of the board, though, there will be a lot of signs of worry from them.
Oh yes, definitely is going to be the case. For you've only got 8 games remaining after this one is done, so yeah, that better be the case. If not, then you're not fit to be a part of this lobby, is what I should say, because of what is on the line, what is on the stake, and what these teams have the opportunity to prove. But for now, HellRaisers, as they progress on to get the zone working for themselves, of course, the area is looking pretty secure as it is spread out. And Doom, we only saw one player actually, where that was a little closer to the position of HellRaisers, but no sweat for now at all, as these players from Pakistan just push on to take as much of the loot as they possibly can. And same is going to be the case for their counterpart, which is going to be Doom, which I do believe they might have actually spotted each other, but for now it is still looking like a very early situation to anticipate any first blood between these two or any other teams, or not first blood, but like start eliminations, basically start the fights, basically. But that's, yeah, it's the map of Miramar. It is going to be slow. It's just 5 minutes. Looking at Doom and the way that they're progressing on, it's looking comfortable for them. But 2,000 meters, yeah, them boys really need a vehicle real soon, and they better get to it fast.
Talk about getting it fast. Teams that are still in the outskirts, they'll need to try and book inside the next zone as fast as possible, or else we always know that making a late rotation can have lots of advantages. And Roar, they get caught off guard this time. It's Noob Alliance just putting in a lot of... Oh, actually hurt and pain. And oh, scratch that. 2 players got taken out from Roar. That means where are the rest 2 players still? 2 players got taken out. Noob Alliance, of course, did a huge damage on those 2, but where are the rest 2 players? Roar getting separated up, and that's something they cannot really afford.
That is definitely true. They should not be given away that sort of an opportunity to their opponents. But indeed, this time around the map of Miramar, it was open and closed case pretty quick. And the way Roar even tried to approach that vehicle, I mean, yeah, just an easy opportunity for Noob Alliance to be able to capitalize upon, and they did so perfectly as well. Now, moving on away from those first blood situations, we've got F1, a team that is going to be playing with a 3-man squad this time around. We've got Alpha Boy Goku as well as Ashad, but this again could work out, could maybe be tricky for them as they try and make this rotation, because 1,100 meters is what they are from that zone. And as they do try and make this rotation, I'm trying to look at the mini-map to try and see where Boy's teammates are. They're pretty scattered. With a 3-man squad, I would have anticipated them to be pretty close by, but yeah, we've got a little bit of family feud going on right here.
Family feud, talk about that. But unfortunately, F1 just starting the day off on Miramar this time with only 3 players. That might just hurt them quite a lot in the longer run. Alpha Boy still on a run to make it inside the zone, or at least get a better spot inside the zone. Flames 1 had quite a decent ending in the previous game. And this game as well, they want to take things really slow, safe and cautious. Grim Gaming Esports in front of our screens, and so far still a lot of teams just looting around, trying to see how they can navigate their way inside the next zone.
Absolutely. And this again being just the first few minutes of the game itself, roughly about like 15-minute mark, we do end up looking at a few fights taking place between squads themselves, because that is the time that those rotations are going to be brought on based on the zone. And looking at the zone itself, I mean, this is a very comfortable zone for quite a lot of these teams, but the few of them that have tried to stick it to the edge are still out in the blues. We've got at least 4 to 5 teams that are out in the blues as we push on through towards the center of the zone itself. MAKPEN looking very comfortable, no team around them in the vicinity to be able to give them any problems whatsoever at all. But from down south of MAKPEN's position, I'm looking at Grim. Now this team is making a rotation from La Bandita. We did just see them a few minutes ago as well. Now if they push on from the same trajectory, they're going to be faced with MAKPEN at Junkyard pretty quick. But along with that, looking onto the northern side, we've got F1's player as well as the Nepali boys jumping in from the north. So that is going to be a contested spot as well for the teams out in the blues to be making that rotation. As the 5 of them, they are making rotations from the north and the southern side.
GOZA Esports as well, talk about making the rotation a huge wave from their side, making it inside the next zone. Every single player has their individual vehicles. GOZA Esports as well. A nice approach from their side, trying to be as safe as possible, maintaining that social distancing from the other team. And again, a safer approach. And this Miramar game has been one of the slowest starts so far in the entire tournament, because in the previous Erangel game we saw action breaking off quite early. Some of those teams or some of those players were unfortunately stepped inside the enemy territory without really knowing, and playing flight path played a huge role in that. But this time we're really seeing these teams taking things really slow, calm, and even maturely. Airdrop 1's going to be on the board, and this time it's going to be the GOZA with a little bit of a great to talk about the action. F1, they've heard me and they're already delivering.
Oh, they're delivering for sure. They are just starting and getting warmed up. And along with that, we've got Grim also getting the advantageous position right here, where Sandesh was able to spot the players making a run. And that's going to be Grim's players? No, it is going to be Grim's players actually running out of that position, as they have jumped in against the squad of GOZA. And this is going to be tough position for both these teams actually, because Grim's position, as we can see from Sandesh's view, I mean, they have just arrived at this compound, and same is the case for their opponents, but the opponents are going to be inside the compound, whereas for the side of Grim, the positioning is a little grim, but hey, it's too early to predict.
Talk about the position. I mean, they've realized there's a team in the front, GOZA Esports. And GOZA will definitely have a huge advantage against Grim if this fight does break out, because GOZA, they're currently playing inside a compound. A lot of hard cover to play around with, and GOZA, they will indeed have a lot of heavy chances that they can try and reposition themselves to even a better spot. And there you go, the rotation's being spotted by the players of Grim. Finally, the shootout begins, where Mr. Zrox will take a little shots. No critical amount of damage yet inflicted. Grim Gaming still looking to find some connections with GOZA. They're at least able to stay safe for now. Grim, unfortunately, no elimination points wrapped up, neither any sort of damage inflicted.
For now. Again, as you pointed out, dude, I mean, it is turning out into slow-paced game coming in from these teams, but this is the Miramar approach. This is the way that you want to be able to play the map of Miramar, where you slowly, just low-key approach from one compound to the next as you try and get into the comfort of the zone itself, and then towards those 15-minute marker is when those fights are to be predicted and anticipated. As of now, that's where it seems like this game is going to be going towards, as well as we've still got all 16 teams survive, and we're at 12-minute marker. GOZA esports are in a tough position, but one perfect point is going to be that the zone has moved away, and thus allowing them actually to just get into their vehicles and get away, as far away, as quickly as they can from the Grim Reaper approach that Grim were approaching their south side with.
Still, though, there are quite a lot of teams that have got really good spot for themselves inside the zone. HellRaisers is one of those teams, Blotter, that barely qualified in the top 16 from the top 32, right on the 16th spot. So HellRaiser, there's going to be quite a lot of eyes on them too, because they've barely qualified in. And how are they going to be able to perform in the grand finals? They're definitely going to be second guessing themselves without a doubt.
It seems likely. It seems likely to be the case. For now, as you were just pointing out the team, we have them on our screens at El Pozo as they are in the safety of the compound. But hey, right next to them is going to be Rex, as well as they are going to try. And Amir right here, of course, on our screen is going to try and get an opportunity to be able to get some blood started. But MAKPEN on the inside taking on some crucial shots against Equinox's rotation.
Yeah, Momo wasn't really able to take out any sort of players in the front. Equinox, unfortunately, one of the players gets knocked out. Valiska taken down quite low from the side of MAKPEN, but he's able to patch himself up. Same thing goes with Momo too, but Momo in a really tricky spot. Equinox, they're going to have all their eyes just lined up onto Momo. Momo, you better back off right now. If you don't, then Equinox will start to engulf you like an amoeba. MAKPEN, though, the rest of the cavalry is there too to try and provide the cover fire. Equinox going for the rest of the fallen men.
They're definitely trying, but they're not looking too good. As we can see, East coming in from that southern side of the zone is going to be caught out, and he brought down to almost 10 HP. But hey, still that small little hill and slope is going to be helping out and will allow him to just sneak past, or try and sneak past, as MAKPEN now really need to be careful, as we've got Doku as well as sneaking in from the northern approach of this compound, where MAKPEN now, even though from a few minutes ago MAKPEN had their crosshairs perfectly set up and were looking very, very comfortable in terms of their approach to this fight, Equinox have really played a number on them as they've divided their numbers, right? We've got two players coming in from the southeastern front, western front, and we've got two players right here in front of our screens coming in from the north, where MAKPEN's Plazanga is going to try and stop Equinox's players, but is it a bit too late, or do we have an opening that will be available? Because both these teams, in fact, are looking very comfortable in terms of the numbers, for we've got 4v4 situation between these two.
Ken, as you did bring it up, 4v4 situation. MAKPEN! Ooh, sneak! Ooh. Better watch out, the shots are really close, whizzing past right his ears. Cannot really afford to get a headshot on himself, but on the other hand, Doom esports, they actually get a knockout onto themselves, and that's something they cannot really afford. Doom esports down a man. They can try and get a helping hand to the fallen man, but is it going to be that easy of a job? Because currently there's another fight on the board. We do see another, actually, a lot of fights now this time are starting to break out. Doom is able to get one of the knockouts of the fallen players of F1, and the confirmation will be there too. F1 now down to a two-man squad. They were already in the lobby with a three-player.
Well, they definitely were, which has been brought down to a two-man army right now against the players of F1, whereas it was Drex Doom right here on our screens who was able to dominate, but his teammates, look at that, two of his teammates have already been brought down as well, where indeed the revival story is looking pretty tricky for the side of that team. And as we go back to the fight that was taking place between MAKPEN, it seems like that is going to be taking a short turn as of now, as we jump towards Rex's approach this time around. I mean, we're looking at Sashti and his teammates as they had the compound pretty much nailed against the players of HellRaisers, but the numbers advantage is what HellRaisers definitely utilized upon and were able to bring the hurt to the players of Rex and RC. As we can see from the back, they've got Hazen coming in to give that revival. Nope, not going to be allowed, says Doom.
Talk about being allowed or not. I mean, so far HellRaisers, They're definitely going to be having a lot of confidence issues in this one. I mean, these are the South Asians just locking their horns against each other, and we do know what they're capable of. The caliber of the gameplay. These teams are here to showcase, and Doom Esports, without a doubt, they're able to get one knockout on the players of HellRaisers. Tears is still alive, though, but it's a uphill battle for the players of HellRaisers.
Well, now it looks likely to be the case. On the other front, we've got Equinox as well as GOZA taking on shots against opponent teams. And right now, the numbers have definitely started going down in terms of the players remaining and surviving in this lobby. 48 is the exact number, where indeed 16 teams are still surviving. So we've still got all 16 teams. There hasn't been an elimination yet, but we definitely, a team elimination yet, but we're definitely looking at a lot of bloody fights taking off, as we've got GOZA Esports perfectly pushing on to just completely spot and eliminate.
Talk about that, and then GOZA Esports struggle. Just tossing out a smoke for a little bit more secure, surety of being secured. Equinox. Doc 922 peeks out. Oh, shots taken to the front. The minute 14, though, not really able to find the sweet spot, the sweet connection. MAKPEN's currently in the front line, so this time that tap's going to connect. Doc does realize that he's also taken some significant amount of damage. Maybe backing off and taking a little bit of patch on himself would be a good choice. But HellRaisers at Chart. Tears just mowing down the vehicle, trying to blow it up too. The bus will be blown up soon. ISSL Noob Alliance currently in the receiving end, Blotter.
Well, this is not looking good once again for the side of ISSL Noob Alliance, where indeed the previous game they finished from the 15th spot in the top 16, and right now it seems like the Molotovs and the lot of hurt coming in from HellRaisers is definitely turning into a lot of tears for ISSL Noob Alliance. Not looking good, as we've got Jimmy, Razor, as well as Mamta right here in the small little ditch, but for how long as HellRaisers next? Look at that. What a perfect aggressive approach from the Vlad right here with the UMP in his hand. He's just going to be absolutely demolishing and annihilating as his teammates come in for the rescue, and tears are going to be in the eyes of ISSL Noob, as they've got just that one man remaining with only 10 HP. This is not the kind of position and play that was anticipated from ISSL Noob Alliance. Yet again, getting eliminated on the 15th spot in the second game of the day.
Then you have Adnan too, still down to half HP, finally patching himself up, and that was the only first aid he had available in his backpack. Teams now are starting to burn through a lot of their meds, and they don't really have a lot left as well, as MAKPEN Momo will fall down eventually. Cream, they're trying to also get the elimination flowing through. Should be able to as well, because the man was quite exposed. Momo taken down easily. Grim, though, still inflicting pain and hurt in the front. It doesn't seem like they're going to be stopped anytime soon. Equinox sneaks, is able to spot himself, is able to get spotted by the players of Grim. Shots taken out of him too. Finally, he will be suppressed down. The suppression fire coming in from the side of Grim is just so useful.
Oh, it definitely is. But Equinox, they have definitely capitalized on the position that was against the players of Marksman. And in doing so, Marksman have been eliminated on the 14th position with zero eliminations. I was honestly anticipating a better play coming in from the side of Marksman, as they were looking pretty comfortable in terms of the information that they've been able to accumulate against their opponents. But I guess I was a bit too wrong. On the other front, Equinox now are going to be stopped in their rotation as they get one team eliminated. They now only have to deal with Grim's approach, as what Grim's Sujal is doing right now is just the utility advantage and utility approach. But where are his teammates? I want to be able to see his teammates, as we see in the minimap. They're divided, but Sujal, he is not stopping in the tracks. He's dropped and dropped snakes in already, but that is it. Numbers going once again in Equinox's favor.
Grim's audacious ball. Confirmation there, Kenzos moving around, marching in the front. Equinox, the confidence is all-time high, currently touching the Cloud9 too. Equinox, tough to stop. A pack of soldiers just moving in with a lot of confidence, and know that they're currently some of the best teams in the lobby. Ended things off on the first place, even in the top 32 to enter the grand finals, and now even inside the grand finals, they're able to kick things off pretty well in the game of Wrangle, and so far in Miramar as well. They're doing a great job of survival with their firepower and also the sure instincts of navigating their way around the circle. 13 teams alive and 26 players in total. HellRaisers HR2 currently with the high ground. A lot of info to work around with, Blotter.
They definitely do have this advantageous position working for them, HellRaisers, but will it be enough? Because HellRaisers, they have already got a lot of hurt in terms of the way that they've been able to rather push against the teams and the fights that they were part of. Divided fights is what they were. But right now, this is their moment to shine. Right now is the moment for them to prove to this entire lobby that, yeah, as soon as we're given the advantage, we are definitely going to deliver. But for now, it seems like Brilliance, the two-man players, two-man army right here from their side, are slowly but surely utilizing those utilities to get into the center of the zone. The closer they get to the edge of the zone, they are going to be in a better spot. But Equinox, they have made it. With the numbers advantage once again working in their favor, this team have made it from the south as they try and take on this compound from Roar.
And Equinox straight up just ramming their vehicles inside Roar's compound. This is the enemy territory, but Equinox doesn't care. They're just straight up looking to rip through. They're looking to shred them apart, and that's what they do. Roar soldiers couldn't even stand a chance. Equinox easily able to rule them out the game. HellRaisers HR, though, they're also starting to sweep their way through. They spot out the players of Equinox in the front. Little shots taken. That suppressive fire definitely helping them keep their heads down. But HellRaisers HR, unfortunately, Tears was left in the back. And Tears, considering GOZA just having a great info to work with, realized Tears is all by himself, and this is their chance to capitalize.
This could be the opening that they were waiting for, maybe. But for now, again, when it comes down to the zone itself, from one side, we've got the four-man giants of Equinox from the Mongolian side. As they push on, they have everything in the open, as that compound is going to be giving them quite a lot of information. But hey, we still have to wait because they're at the edge of the zone. The compound is at the edge of the zone. And right now, the zone is going to be shifting in a few moments. But right before we do so, and look at that, we have the Gangsters as they try and take on Brilliance. Brilliance have been stuck in this small little compound for quite a long time, but the Gangsters are like, all right, mates, enough is enough. We're going to push on along. And 2v2 situation has resulted in the team getting eliminated and the side getting 2 points for themselves. But is it a bit too late? As now, it is going to be 1v1 between the Gangsters against Rex and RC.
The Gangsters just making it look like it's their paradise. And HellRaisers looking at just get inside their territory, looking to evade their territory. As we do have BY7 in the front. Panda 2, Roshan as well. It's being spotted out. HellRaisers HR need to take things as slow and as cautious as possible. But again, the problem starts for them as the circle this time is shifted away. Or no, scratch that. The circle's right on top of them. Actually, the circle shifts away from the players of Equinox. That means now Equinox will need to cross in the open, and that's when they will be quite vulnerable, Blotter.
Whew, this is turning into a really good fight from the side, a really good match from the side of HellRaisers. Indeed, they have been brought down to a two-man squad, but that's not going to be stopping them in their tracks as they still have the information against the players. And as they do, Smart has been dropped. By 7 are not looking that comfortable. Panda in the backlines. But hey, before we jump in towards this fight, look at what's happening right into the vicinity of HellRaisers compound. That's going to be the Gangsters against the players of Rex and RC Doom, where it is a 2v1 situation. And Equinox in the open trying to take a push against the compound. Taken on by 7 is going to be dropped down. At least one of the players is, but we've still got 3 players pushing on. And these 3 players are not going to allow the side of TEG to drop them down easily. We are looking at Equinox, though, taking on a lot of utilities. And just like that, they are left with just one-man army.
Sneaks knocked out. Is also bleeding away. Equinox, now the Sneaks will be confirmed too. Equinox, the final man, needs to keep his toes quiet. Any sort of footsteps heard, and that means Equinox, the lifelines will be cut off. And this is what I mentioned too, Blotter. The circle shifting away from the players of Equinox is going to force them out of their comfort zone, and that's what exactly happened. Equinox forced out of their comfort zone. Kizos, again, is going to be the final glimmer of hope alive to clutch out a situation of 1-on-3. This time gets spotted out in the open, and TEG, they're not going to let any chance let lose.
Oh, dude, I'm loving this team and so much more their name. The end game is what they bring to the table every single time we've seen from their side, and that's exactly what they deliver. But hey, on the other front, it's going to be once again back to the sides of HellRaisers against the players of the Gangsters. Now it's a 2v2 situation between these two, very next to each other as they are sitting. The safety net is going to be the compound, but not for long, of course, as the fight is going to be required to be taken either from their side or a third-party situation, perhaps altogether. As HellRaisers, we've been looking at them bringing in a lot of information and attention actually from the side of By7, so maybe By7 could have a third-party situation between these two teams.
Still though, 5 teams alive with 10 players in total. HellRaisers HR now against the players of Gangsters. And Gangsters, oh, they actually crumbled down. Next is able to get the fallen man. And now Next looking to take out another man too. Smokey V2 still knocked out. On the shot, on the other hand, we'll get the confirmation flowing through, and they'll scratch that. Next is still alive. Adnan right on top of the building. Just realize there's a rest being stuck so far. Adnan now in an aggressive footing. Nishan catches a bullet right on his dome. Will be taken down quite low. Adnan on an aggressive page. The player still knocked out. Adnan realizes the fallen man needs the help, so he will go and give the fallen man a hand.
Oh, what a play coming in from Adnan indeed, as he did push on the aggression and then went on to get his teammate revival confirmed as well. With that, we're left with 4 teams remaining this time around. The end game is still not yet done with 6 eliminations, 3 players in the squad. They are rushing and pushing, but hey, you better be cool about your approach because you do need to keep a very clear eye on your flank angles, and that is something that TEG did not do so gracefully, and indeed they were punished just a little. But hey, it seems like HellRaisers are the ones who are going to be getting the last laugh of this fight, as the Gangsters get perfect flank on them.
Exactly, it's the Gangsters' paradise blotter, and no one's going to be stopping Gangsters anytime soon. The guns are blazing from the side of Gangsters, but as they're also getting charged on by the end game, are they going to be able to end this game this time? And yes, the end game, they put the final nail in the coffin, and they end this Gangsters' paradise, as the end game are going to be able to get the chicken dinner of the previous game.
Oh wow, what a way to end the game. 9 elimination points from their side. Equinox is the team, one of the big names that they were able to just completely shut down as they tried to make that approach towards the compound, where indeed the endgame were like, not going to be allowed. This is ours and we are the ones who will reign and supreme. I mean, the Gangsters, they had a really good approach as well. I mean, they had a lot of fights that they were a part of. They in fact were part of fights that were not working for them. They had a 1v1 situation, they had a 2v1 situations, and then they worked out on top of that. And then, of course, it was the end game that came in to end the fight and the story that the Gangsters were creating for their side.
And this is quite huge too, Blotter. The end game is a team coming in from the Philippines region, which a region we haven't really seen a lot, Blotter. And I personally do want to see a lot more of that team, because the end game, the way they played, a synergistic play, a well-coordinated, a well-synced play, they look like a well-oiled team in that previous game. And also Zone somewhere down line helping them out a little bit, but still the end game, the way they kept their composure till the end and realized there's only 2 players and they're also quite hurt, instantly pushed on in, and the Gangsters got taken out from the game, and the end game were able to come out on top. Philippines region, they definitely have a little bit of promising lineup coming inside this one.
Oh, they do. They definitely do. I mean, they're definitely playing with the minds of the players, and in doing so, they're doing it so gracefully, where one team after, or rather one match after the next, only 2 games are done, but I can definitely see a consistent play being showcased from the side of this team. But with that, let's move on and have a look at the most valuable player coming in from the second game of the day. 3 games still remain, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we're done with the second game of the day, and that indeed, we've got the MVP from Equinox's East. 6 eliminations, 6 knocks confirmed with 1 assist. I mean, a very, very hungry lad, this one. I mean, that's the kind of play he showcased in the previous game. That's exactly what he's delivered in this one as well.
I mean, this is what you expect from a team like Equinox, right? I mean, East, again, just showing himself up with 6 eliminations, the same amount of eliminations that he got in the previous game. Damage dealt is going to be 923 with the survival time of 2409, an assist of 1, and 6 knockouts. I mean, the knockout and the confirmation, I mean, that means the confirmation right from the side of Equinox East is perfect. It's 100%.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, he is the man to fall back on. He is the concrete. He's the rock of this entire team, perhaps in terms of the play, the aggressive play that is being showcased from the side of Equinox. But as we push on through, apart from the MVP, who do we have in the top players list? Let's find out. We're looking at, well, Equinox and his teammate. I mean, Equinox East is there, but very close following him, of course, is going to be his teammate, Kenz, with 797 damage with 5 eliminations of his own. And then, after that, we push on through to the Gangsters and Inax.
Exactly, and then HR2, I'm quite surprised and I'm quite happy for a team like HellRaisers to show themselves up, considering they barely qualified in the top 16, and now HellRaisers doing a great job to at least showing themselves in the second game of the first day. And we talked about this, not a lot of games, and still this is what HellRaisers is realizing, that every single game is going to count and there should be no rookie mistakes being made.
Exactly, mate, and that is something I would say they've done so gracefully in the second game of the day, right? I mean, team from Pakistan, the HellRaisers, they definitely did utilize the heat of course, Miramar to bring in some numbers for themselves, bring themselves up, and we shall see in the overall ranking how big a leap are they going to be able to create with this match. But of course, before we do so, the summary right here on our screens are definitely indicating a lot of healings done, no vehicle eliminations, but alongside all of that, the grenade elimination. I mean, 6 grenade elimination. Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Exactly. This time, the nade eliminations are really good, and this is what I like. Utilities being prioritized to the perfection, and teams finally getting a little bit back in their comfort zone. The jitters, it seems like they're slowly and steadily getting away from these teams. That means teams will be able to get their mindset back in the game, and they will be able to dominate maybe soon again. As we do move on over to the match rankings of the previous Miramar game, in the end game, without a doubt, they got themselves a chicken dinner, a team coming in from the side of Philippines, and then team right underneath them are going to be DE Gangsters, a team from Nepal, and then Equinox, as always. They have to be somewhere in the top 3. So in third spot with 4 placement points and 12 elimination points, 16 points in total, Equinox doing a great job of being consistent, at least in the first 2 games.
Well, definitely, and just to add on to that, consistency in terms of elimination points as well as placement points. They got what, 6 placement points, sorry, in the previous game. This time they walk away with 4. So yeah, as soon as they bring up those placement points for themselves, this team is definitely going to be rock solid, jumping on to the top of the leaderboard. But of course, we are just looking at the first 2 game stats as of now. We've got 10 games in total, of which 2 are done, so that means 8 games remain. And in those 8 games, we can definitely see a comeback story from the team sitting on the second page.
Exactly, as we do see the second page of the match rankings, Fallen 5, unfortunately still in the latter half of the board. F1, again, in the latter half of the board in the previous game, did not really have that great of a game, but they had a really good Erangel game. So that's something that might just help them a bit more in the overall rankings for now. 4 Nepali boys as well right underneath, and MAKPEN not having the game of their lives. We saw MAKPEN as well getting a little bit of spotlight, but they were not able to use that spotlight to its maximum potential.
True, absolutely agreed, 100% agreed indeed, because that was a really good opportunity from the side of MAKPEN to be able to capitalize upon, but sadly they were just not able to deliver. But again, it is just too early to talk about things that have gone wrong, because they're still trying to understand what sort of a rotation and play maybe is being made from their opponents, or they want to make. But that is what the case and the storyline is with these 2 games done. 3 games remain for the day. Let's move on through and have a look at the damage graph from this game of Miramar. A heated debate is what it was between quite a lot of these teams as we look at those elimination points as well as damage. I mean, the ground, this is just absolutely brilliant play from the end game. 9 elimination points from their side, and the approach they've had, right? I mean, 1242 damage compared to the 2300 plus damage from Equinox. One would say that, all right, yeah, Equinox had a better game, but I would also point out that the end game were just looking at ending it as quickly as they possibly could, right? So they were just like, all right, we've spotted this player, bring him down, that's all, just move on from one to the other. Whereas Equinox, they were part of so many fights. Whatever they saw moving, they would shoot on.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we've got to do, man. Sometimes if things are not really working out, just try to see whatever you can shoot, try to see what's moving, and just try to take it down easily. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on the overall rankings and find out how that's looking like. And Endgame PS have just tied up with Equinox, a huge statement, and Deadeye's Gangsters again right on the third spot with 25 points.
Well. Again, the end game. This has a brilliant spell because of the way that they played. And I was just looking at how they played in the top 32 as well, where indeed they only had one chicken dinner, but were sitting on that 5th spot. So wow indeed. I am definitely going to be looking forward to what this team does. But pushing on from the first page through to the next, we've got the points being distributed quite a significant number between the first and the 8 as well, where Team Prime, sitting on that 8th position, is going to be sitting with 11 points, whereas the team on the first is sitting at 38 points. So quite a lot of difference. But from that 11 point on that 8th position, let's move on to the second page, which I do want to see, because that seems like where the lot of opportunities are for these teams. Looking at that, 8th and 9th position sitting teams, we do have Prime and GOZA respectively, both sitting at 11 points. And then all the way down is going to be MAKPEN at 16th at 2 points.
Yeah.
Still possible for a revival story, still possible for a comeback story.
Yeah.
From all of these teams sitting on the second page.
Again, Blotter, this is what we said, right? So usually the tournaments that we cast, they have like these groups and stuff, and they have a lot of chance to study each other in those groups. But this time, teams are not going to have any chance of sitting out and actually reviewing the WODs in middle of the games or in middle of the day, while they will have to just play through all the 16 games. So there's going to be no chance of improvisation, no chance of improvement. You'll have to try and stick to the basics, unless if you do try to do something out the box, then you will have to execute it to perfection, or at least you should have been able to practice the secondary plan. A team usually has a plan A and a plan B. They only use plan B when they're forced to be using that. And if plan A is not really working, you will have to go to plan B and try and use plan B. But even if plan B is not working out, that's when my statement comes in. You're not going to have a chance, or you're not going to have a lot of time to create that plan C on trying to study these teams, how they're actually playing and moving around in the grand finals.
Well, that, again, as so perfectly mentioned, right? They don't really have that many opportunities to be able to study. But moving on through those opportunities, let's bring up the third opportunity of the day, where indeed we move on to the third map, which is going to be Wrangle. So, a comfortable spot for the teams. But who will get this Wrangle? The first one we saw Equinox bringing in a consistent play. Second game as well, they were very consistent. But, of course, it was the end game they got the chicken dinner. But on the third one, Wrangle, you know what? Miramar actually, Necro, we saw a couple of these teams bring in a really good comeback. We've talked about HellRaisers. They had a really good play. Team Prime, they had a pretty decent one as well. So, let's see. this is maybe the change of pace from the lobby in this third map.
A change of pace, indeed, I'm expecting it too, because considering you're again going to be moving back to Wrangle, and now this is something that we pretty much saw how teams are going to be playing. Are they going to be playing the same way they played the first Wrangle game, or are there going to be a little bit of improvements? I personally feel like, considering they've already played 2 games, I'm expecting teams to be a lot more confident than we saw how they played in the first Wrangle game. So I'm expecting a little bit of micro adjustments coming in from these teams, trying to adapt on the fly and trying to think how they can try and make a new navigation way out. Just like having that adaptive nature in a team can help you a lot in these sort of moments. And that's what I'm expecting them to have. But also, hey, something just out the blue from my side too. There's quite a lot of watch parties going on, ladies and gentlemen. So shout out to everyone doing the watch party. I pretty much know Ansh and Mandeep are doing the watch parties too. So shout out to you guys. But yeah, moving inside the third map of the day, ladies and gentlemen. This time it's going to be Wrangle playing flat path, starting all the way from the bottom left to the side and ending all the way towards Milta or Nova Rupnoi.
Well, once again, it's going to be definitely favoring the teams that are sitting on the southern, or rather like to sit on the southern side of the zone, and southern side of the map is what is going to be clearly available for these teams to be able to capitalize upon. But will that be the story that they are going to be marking for their own? Will that be the case, or is there still a chance for a different play and pace from the side of these teams? For now, again, we are looking at just the second Erangel, just the third game of the day. So it's still too early to anticipate as to who exactly will be the one sitting at the top of the leaderboard by the end of the day. But right now, as it comes down to the first page, we've got two teams sitting on the primal spot, sitting on that first position with 38 points, and that itself, well, clearly kind of draws the line as to what the other teams are doing, because these teams have been able to accumulate 38 points, whereas we've got really good names sitting on the second position with 11 points. We've got teams sitting at 2 points, 6 points. Yeah, that this is the moment where I would say that those teams on the second page, they really, really need to do something out of the blue, something extraordinary, or as Necro said, something plain and beautiful and comfortable that you're already doing and have been comfortable with, because that is the kind of pace that is required with the third game of the day at the hand of these teams. But let's see. That's all my speculation and anticipation. But well, again, I mean, we shall see if that'll be the way the game is going to be played.
And again, Blotter, standard Erangel zone, nothing really out of the box.
Yeah,
just a standard circle. And again, this is something that we really need to now talk about. The plane flight path started all the way from down south. The circle is standard, so that means the majority of the teams, they will need a little bit of time to fly on through.
For now, they will. For now, they definitely will. But look at that Georgia pole space, mate. We've got By7 right there, and right next to them, we've got another team. And it seems like we maybe could be looking at some early contestations right there as the team of By7 try and exit the Georgia pole region. Apart from that, when it comes down to the way the teams have dropped, I mean, we're clearly looking at these different colors. But looking at those colors, we can clearly see that few of these teams, they have a really spread out approach, and that is exactly what I was going down to production, as we had Grim very close to the players of Rex NRC, where in fact Rex NRC's player has actually jumped to I guess to a different cause. I'm not entirely sure, because his teammates are nowhere around in the vicinity.
Grim, Mr. Zrox, really crows. Grim too, they've realized, they've sensed some presence around them, so Grim as well, every single move that they're trying to make, they're making sure they're not really giving away a lot of FIQ away. Instead, trying to play things really safe and cautious. They don't exactly know where the enemy is positioned too, so this is something when you really do step inside enemy territory, you got to make sure that you have the maximum amount of info. That will also give you a lot of confidence moving inside in that battle.
Absolutely. For now, talking about that confidence, it seems it's a little grim from the side of Grim indeed, because of the way that they are trying to approach, or in fact not approach, the opportunity of a fight right there, where honestly I actually thought that they would have seen the number of players that dropped down in that area, but I guess they did not, where indeed from the side of Rex there was only one player that was around in the vicinity. But I do anticipate the approach that Grim are taking. I mean, they know for a fact that the teammate of that player is going to be around in the vicinity, or are going to be trying to make a rotation. They do not really want to be a part of any of that. They're pretty much confident and comfortable with their own approach, and that is going to be to take their own time to get comfortable with their drops, with their loots, my apologies. And once that is done, once that is completed, that is when they can maybe start looking at taking on those fights. And yeah, that said and done, we've got Rex NRC given a clear, clean, straight sheet right through this compound, these compounds in fact, as he will be going all across from one house to the next to get the compound for himself. And we can see around in the vicinity or far away in the distance, not necessarily, his teammates are also going to be around to give him that lift out of that area. So a decent outing for the side of that player, because yeah, it was looking like Grim might be able to walk away with that first blood and a elimination point, but sadly that's not going to be the case right here.
Roar, really close. Bazad, no intentions of stopping by, so Roar soldiers being let loose this time. Hercules right here as well, just driving around the compound, making sure the compounds are safe, and that's what it seems like so far. So Roar Now they found a little bit of safe zone for themselves that they can try and call it a home. Also, vehicles to try and secure. So far, so good for a lot of teams. Not a lot of early action, Blotter.
Absolutely. I mean, you pointed it out earlier during the day as well, right? When it comes down to the number of matches that these teams are given the opportunity of playing, it is only 10 in total, which already has dropped down to 8, counting this one. So, yeah, it is definitely fair for these teams to take a slow pace from one side of the zone to the other because of, again, the number of matches that are available at hand. And the $50,000 prize pool itself is also going to be a little bit of a dread that these teams are going to be looking at. Or maybe not, because we do have finally some first action play being showcased right here, where indeed it is going to be sadly F1.
Exactly, Par Brilliance. There we go. Finally, the first blood of this entire game, ladies and gentlemen. And we're finally seeing that first blood coming through, and it's going to be Par Brilliance to kick things off, and they really need this too, if I'm not wrong. Par Brilliance is currently sitting in the overall rankings of the latter half, so they need any sort of elimination points they can. And Equinox 2 now on the kill feed. Finally, we're seeing the silence being broken.
Oh, we definitely are. This is a good thing. This is definitely a good thing, right? I mean, these teams, they are now slowly comforting themselves with the play style that they love to play with, and that is what we want to be able to see as well, right? I mean, if Equinox, for example, is a team that loves to play it aggressively, and that is what they are comfortable at, and that is what they must do, and that is again being showcased from the side of Power Brilliance this game as well. On the other front, though, F1, I kind of feel bad about them, dude. I mean, the previous game, they did not have a good play because of the only 3 players of theirs were part of the lobby, and this time around as they try and move on along, and same is the case for Grim, and it is going to be this Smokey who will be able to stop Grim's approach, and Sandesh is out back, is going to try and get that revival cover, but is it a bit too late as he's also going to be caught out all by himself with 2 players from the side of the Gangsters just easily dominating against Grim's players, and Grim, ouch moments from them, of course, because they are now left with just a 2-man squad, and the Gangsters, easy 2 elimination points from them.
Exactly. Deadeye's Gangsters, or DE Gangsters so far, looking pretty good. 16 players remaining, and Gangsters, they get a little bit of more blood on their hands. And why would they deny it? Grim again, one of the players being caught out in the open. Nishan, he is making a run out in the open too. Cannot afford to be there. Deadeye's Gangsters realizing that there's not a lot of players left for this team. Sujil, though, still able to eject one of those players out straight from the weak call. But unfortunately, this time will get ruled out of that gunfight. A nice challenge coming in from the side of Smokey V2, and he will win that one-on-one duel. Deadeye's Gangsters, they have so much confidence in this lobby to even go for that one-on-one duel like that, an uphill staircase battle for Smokey V2, and still come out on top. That just shows the amount of confidence Gangsters have in this lobby.
That is how they love to play. That is what they are showcasing. But also another point is, like, Grim Gaming, they've had a tough play right there. I mean, the way they were caught off, the 2 players out in the open, it was easy picking. In fact, it really was easy picking for the side of the Gangsters. And the Gangsters, they did so gracefully. That is what they have done and showcased earlier, and that is what they are doing so right now as well. So, of course, that is to be anticipated from the side of this team. And this time around, with all 4 players still surviving from the side of the Gangsters, they're looking on that much more of a forefront to take on fights. And as you so perfectly mentioned, right, compared to the first triangle, this time around, teams are comfortable. And F1, ouch moment for them again, as a shot has been brought down to his knees. This time around, of course, we do have all 4 players playing, but I guess not for long, as HR has helped them against their cause.
HellRaisers, one of those teams coming inside this tournament. Not a lot of expectations from them because they barely qualified in the 6th spot. But inside the top 16 so far, they're doing pretty okay.
They definitely are. I mean, they are out for blood, and that is what they are finding. In the previous game, they did so perfectly, and this time around as well is going to be the storyline from themselves. So, yeah, I'm liking it. I'm definitely loving it, in fact, the approach that the side of this Pakistani team has taken, and for now, it's working for them. But again, for F1, that has not been the case. Flames are not really growing strong and loud as was anticipated from their fans, as the games, this being the third game, the day itself is looking like it's run away from the side of these flames, but we still have 2 games remaining. I mean, this game is still not yet done. We've got a 2-man army from F1. I do want to see them at least, get out with some perfect placement points, which would be like 8th position or 6th position even, which would be perfect. But tough games from F1 previous to this.
Flames won. 2 players up. This time Flames won. Thank God they have all the players in the lobby. Unfortunately, in the previous game, they were only a 3-man squad. But this time they have all 4 players. Maybe they will be able to do something, but unfortunately they've already been taken down to a 2-man squad, so it doesn't really matter. F1, they've been picked off quite early. HellRaisers, they're doing a great job in the survival aspect of the game so far, having all the players up. Every single team currently in the lobby just waiting for the next circle to hit the deck. And we also do see Equinox closing up quite close to the players of Rex. But NRC, they catch the players of GOZA as Joker instantly knocked out. The Wall of Death now will also chip away a lot of damage. So maybe this time making it inside the zone as quick as possible should be the way. But that doesn't mean you cannot tank it. Teams will be able to tank the zone. And this is something they can't really afford. If they do want to make a rotation all the way from the outskirts of the zone, if you do have a lot of meds to burn through, then you can afford to make the rotation in the blue. But if you don't have a lot of meds and you only have a lot of bandages to work around with, then maybe you'll have to reconsider that choice, as we do have GOZA. 1 player's out in the open. Not a lot of cover to play around with. Finally, will peek out in the open because has no other choice. And Doom will be able to cut off his lifeline.
Well, with that, it is looking like Rex and RC are going to be able to bring down another elimination point for themselves, but they still also need to make a rotation to the zone. 1,500-meter journey out in the battlegrounds. Not an easy one for the side of NRC, Rex and RC, but it is still an option that is going to be clearly available for them because of the fact, as you so perfectly mentioned, I mean, if they do want to stick out in the blues, they might as well, as long as they've got those medkits. And it seems like Rex and RC did plan this, as they are now moving on to take on another player from GOZA, as struggle is beginning to be real for GOZA's player.
GOZA struggle is indeed being seen. Both these teams are out in the blue, especially Amare just firing those shots on all cylinders. And team in the front, they have no other choice than to retreat back to the safe zone. Rex and RC, at least they've got a decent amount of loot on their hands, but as you do see, Hazen has no first aid still, even though he just looted that dead body. Fallen 5 on our screens. And they're as well on the latter half of the board, so Fallen 5. A lot of teams, Blotter, here they're currently in the red marker, which is the latter half of the board. And they have so much to prove. We talked about this, Blotter, and I said this too. I'm going to let the first 3 games slide in. That means this Erangel game, I'll let it slide in. I'll be like, all right, it's okay. Maybe it's just a jitter. But the final 2 games, which is going to be Sanhok and Erangel again, that's where I'm going to be a little more critical about my words.
Yeah, I'm not too far away from that statement at all. I mean, I am looking at this game as that rock-solid marker where indeed, if these teams on the second page of the leaderboard as of now want to be able to prove their worth, this game they better start, turning and churning along in terms of those coils that need grinding, and that is something that I'm hoping will be starting this game onwards. And as you mentioned, I mean, Fallen 5 is definitely one of those teams that do want to be able to definitely have a good game. But right now it is the Gangsters. DE Gangsters have been able to dominate as of now in terms of the fights that we've been witnessing on this map of Firang, and this is exactly what and how they do it. They have the numbers advantage. They push on with the perfect communication and synergy, and that in doing so, this time around it is going to be ISSL Noob Alliance, who need to really deliver a perfect play if they want to be able to survive this onslaught from the side of this team. But DE Gangsters, they are prepared. Same is the case actually, which can be said for the side of ISSL Noob, but they have a 2-man split in these 2 compounds. So alright, so it's a 2v4 maybe, because the way DE Gangsters like to play, they are all about the numbers working for them.
And yeah, Gangsters, look at Noob Alliance too. Lucifer not even moving a muscle. Finally will spot out QI right in the front, and he will strike like a venomous snake, but the snake instantly being silenced as well. Gangsters, the capitalization, a quick realization coming in from their side, but Jimmy is also cooking up an aid. This might just be the confirmation flowing in that ISSL Noob really needed. Smokey V2 a little too overconfident. We talked about Gangsters being really confident in this game, and that's confident now is just biting them in the back as Jimmy will take out another player. Demon YT taking that quite low. A pro shot coming in, but this time it might just not work out. Yep. HP not really working in his favor, and Razor will put the final nail in the coffins, and DE Gangsters, the confidence just not working out for them, and instead turning the confidence into overconfidence. Smokey V2, that knockout right there. If Smokey doesn't get knocked out, things could have been so different.
100% agree, dude. 100% agree, mate. That was just disastrous. Why would you just walk out of the... Alright, well, again, I don't know if it was confidence over confidence, but whatever the case was, it has definitely resulted in ISSL Noob looking pretty good in that fight and definitely able to knock down and eliminate a really good big name. And this time around, it's going to be all down to F1's final player, that's Joker, down to 10 HP, but with a utility in his hand, he wants to be able to deliver some massive damage before he's dropped down to his knees. He will be dropping down a nade, but before he does get any points, he will be eliminated. And HellRaisers, the team joining us from Pakistan, looking once again very comfortable in this third game of the day, where the first one was not too good for their cause, but this time around, second and third, looking very comfortable indeed. As we move on to the live rankings, look at Equinox. The numbers are theirs, of course. They've already moved on and mowed down two players. Well, I shouldn't really say mowed down because I don't really know how they got those kills. They have been able to eliminate two players and get those 2 points for themselves. So in the lead, they definitely are. But we're still looking at 13 teams in total still surviving with both zone opponents.
Exactly, and a nice knockout from the side of Roars to kick things off, but a return knock coming in from the side of NEP. Roar Soldiers now trying to fight back and get another one. Oh, the nade from the Savage. We'll catch another one. And another man falls down from the side of NEP, and this is something they cannot really afford. A lot of casualties, and that's what they're getting onto themselves so far. Roar doing a great job defending this compound. If the flag just straight up posted on this one, it's Roar's compound, and if anyone tries to snatch it away, Roar will take care of them easily. Roar for now on the defensive stance, and they are able to defend it so well too.
Absolutely, they did. And again, I mean, I really don't even want to commend the approach coming in from the side of four Nepali boys, because the way that it's just so one-synergistic, mate. They just went down one by one like a production line, and then they went one by one as well in terms of the way Roar approached. Of course, it was absolutely brilliant, but the safety net of the compound absolutely helping them. But all right, looking at that zone, MAKPEN, this has to be your approach. This has to be your game. This has to be dominated and dictated the way you want these opponents to be playing it out. But they've got one big name, or other, well, actually, they've got a couple of big names, but one of those big names is going to be ISSL Noob right next to them. And then it's Equinox that has been caught out at the edge thanks to the ISSL Noob player and position.
Exactly. Look at Team Prime now. Just blocking the sights in the front. They do know there's the enemy available, and they're quite on the edge too. So Team Prime, maybe they do want to make a mature choice and actually prioritize the zone first. And this time it's Brilliance who are back, face to the zone. And the wall of death now is going to start to close in. So Brilliance with no other option. They will need a straight up book inside the next zone, and that's what they're doing. But a lot of teams are in the front too. So Brilliance finding a safe way to navigate. That's going to be quite a tricky way.
It definitely is looking tricky, but I guess not too difficult as well, because they have been able to actually move away from quite a lot of those big names, but they were going exactly into the crosshairs of Equinox. When we come back to that, as we've got ISSL Noob once again on our screens, a two-man army against the players of Team Prime. As we've just looking at the way Team Prime were moving on from one fight to the next, they are looking on to the numbers advantage. They won't be able to take that fight all together as one. But
there we go. I mean,
you said, huh? I thought you wanted to chime in, and I stopped. I'm sorry.
No, I just said, oh, he just took so much damage. And yeah, this is exactly why I said that. Noob Alliance just getting wrecked out, just getting taken out from the game easily from Eli 7, which is Team Prime. Equinox again. Kenzos is a man you need to always watch out from. And now it's Equinox against the players of Team Prime. And Team Prime, you don't really want to be in a target way, or you don't really want to be in the target list of Equinox, because if they do get you in your hit list, then Equinox will just cause a lot of trouble. East, the nade was quite close, but not close enough to knock him out.
Look at the way the end game is playing. They absolutely utilize those advantageous positions that Equinox makes for themselves, and then they try and backstab the position that Equinox makes for themselves. And the kill feed, we just saw the side of the end game taken on the players of Equinox, and we're able to actually knock down a couple of them as well.
Yeah.
But before we move away from there, we still do have Equinox in the lead in terms of the eliminations that they've been able to accumulate. Team Prime not looking too good, as they were looking to get some points for themselves. Equinox came in just like that, said no, and that's going to be done and dusted from their side. But they themselves have had a lot of hurt, as they had been brought down to 2-man squad. Now it's time for Team Prime to shine.
Yeah, this fight is not really something that went in the favor of Equinox, even though they were in the advantageous position, just straight up ramming their vehicles in that compound. Equinox, somehow the table's now being turned against them, and Doc, Nate cooking in, does hear a lot of foot cues away in the front. Smart will be able to dodge it smartly. Panda right on top of this building. Doc knows, man. Equinox knows where every single player's already positioned. And Doc still hiding in a corner, taking things slow and cautious. Does not want to risk any chances of losing this one, because Equinox, they're down to a 2-man squad. Not a lot of manpower, but the nade will crawl right next to him, and a smart nade again from the side of Smart. Another nade will be able to get the confirmation flowing. Great job done from the side of Team Prime to just handicap a team like Equinox.
And they do need these numbers. I mean, they haven't had a good first 2 games, but this is definitely looking like the top Prime play coming in from the side of Team Prime, and they are absolutely utilizing those positions. But now they need to be on the move. They need to be on the run as they try and get into the zone. 6 teams remaining as this Team Prime jumps into the zone. We've also got HellRaisers right around the vicinity to be who are waiting for them, but it seems like Z trying to make that rotation has been caught himself. That's going to be none other than Doom ESports, and Doom ESports with 4 players of their own surviving with 6 defeats confirmed for their side. Well, they are going to be trying to bring in a little bit of hurt, but it seems like not before Team Prime takes their half of that fight and walking away with numbers. But now they're out in the open, and as Team Prime tries to get into the zone, Doom ESP have the final say.
Exactly, Team Prime, unfortunately, Marty, the only glimmer of hope alive so far, and the vehicle gets blown up by Doom ESP. Doing a great job so far. 7 eliminations wrapped up from a team like Doom. And this is what you expect. Doom is always able to dominate on the grounds of Erangel. This is their home so far. And they're looking the most comfortable in Erangel too. TEG, the end game, as you did mention, they were able to dodge, or they were able to avoid all sort of ice so far. They like to play the survival game. They like to rely on the survival instincts, and so far, they're doing a great job.
They have been doing a phenomenal job in terms of the way that they've been able to push on into those final moments of the game, and that is exactly what they're doing. So this time around to end the game pretty much, and right goes into the vicinity is going to be the players of Doom ESports, where indeed this player right here is keeping us cool, but I guess not for long, because Doom ESports, the Akazi has seen him and spotted him and sprayed down all of the coolness that was being showcased from the end game player, and of course is going to be the case for his teammate as well. But thankfully his teammate will be able to get his health all the way back up. But will that be the case for the cool parade from the side of nope? Wow.
Yeah, look at Akaze.
What I gotta say.
Yeah, look at Akaze too. I mean, he has a really nice high ground to play with. Talk about stars aligned at Doom so far. They're able to wrap up so many elimination points too. Having one of the most advantageous spots, having a nice high ground to play around with. It looks like Doom, they're doing a great job capitalizing on these positions. MAKPEN's going to be a team in the front. And Akaze, somewhere down the line, has heard the footsteps around. So doesn't know how to navigate his way around this fight. But we'll need to watch out from the open fields too. You cannot really have your back turned on those.
Tough position these teams are in. We've got 4 teams remaining. 2 players coming in from the side of course, MAKPEN. We've got the side of Doom ESports absolutely spread across this area with all 4 players still surviving. And right now, those players are going to be jumping on to the position of MAKPEN. And in doing so, it is going to be GG's. Good game, well played, MAKPEN, as they have been brought down to a 1-man army. And Doom ESports, they're bringing in complete destruction and damage all across this zone, where they have brought down all of the opponent teams down to just a 1-man squad.
Doom ESP, as I said, Erangel is their home ground, and no one's going to be able to steal it away or steal the trophy away this time from Doom ESP. In the first ever Erangel game that we kicked things off in the PMCO, they had 15 eliminations, Blotter, and this time too, look at Doom. They have such a lot. They have so much confidence, and it makes sense too. Doom, they've been doing so great, and oh, a nice turnaround, just turns around and slaps him right in the face. MAKPEN eliminated out the game, Blotter.
They have been eliminated. Who would have thought that team that was looking pretty good? But hey, Rex and RC, they have the final say. But Doom ESports, this team, they do not stop. They do not let any of those other teams get out of their crosshairs. And easy picking is what it was for the side of Doom ESports with 14 eliminations. 29 points is what this team's got in this third game of the day. Wow.
And I'm not even surprised they're a Mongolian team. And when it comes to the elimination points, again, Mongolian teams are known to have a lot of confidence. And when it comes to Mongolian teams, they're known to also wrap up a lot of elimination points. And that's what Doom ESP is able to do so far. There's only 2 Mongolian teams in this entire competition, but these 2 Mongolian teams are wreaking havoc in this entire lobby.
They definitely have been. And with that, we've got 3 games done for the day. We can clearly see which side this first page, at least the first page of the leaderboard, is going to be shifting and moving towards because of the way these teams are playing. This is just ludicrous damage that they've brought against the entire lobby again and again. You know, the consistent play that is being showcased from the side is I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but it's looking like the Mongolian domination is going to be showcased.
Again, probably, because Doom, 14 kill game again. And in the first Erangel game that we saw, Doom had 15 eliminations, but unfortunately not a lot of placements to back it up. But this time they get 14 eliminations and also a chicken dinner. Doom, man, what a statement has been made. Erangel is indeed their home because they kind of faltered out in Miramar, but in Erangel they bounced back even stronger.
They did so. With that, let's move on and have a look at the most valuable player, the MVP, coming in from this game, the third game of the day, where they've got Akazi. Now, you have to really, you know, point out the way that he was able to stop the players of the opponent team and were completely hunkered down. And I believe it was Team Prime, if I'm not wrong. But overall, I mean, again, Doom ESports, every single time we saw this team, they were bringing down heads, right, left, right, and center.
Exactly, I mean, they were, and Doom ESports, they're looking like an unstoppable, they're like a freak of nature. It's so tough to stop Doom ESports, especially on the map of Erangel, and they're looking really good so far doing so as well. 6 elimination points from the side of Akaze, and damage dealt is going to be 980 with the survival time of 24-36, assist of 3, and knockouts of 5. Akaze is here to prove something, and he is not going to leave anytime soon.
Absolutely, and with that we shall move on and have a look at the top players list along with the MVP. Who else has stepped up from the side of Doom ESports? We've got Sai right there, looking very comfortable with 3 eliminations, but 839 damage dished out from the lads. So a lot of cover that was provided and a lot of damage from the entirety of this squad. But away from that, we move towards Team Prime, and yeah, like we were talking about it, I mean, this team haven't had a good start to the day, but it seems like game number 3 has definitely pushed their luck towards the upward front, as they did bring in a lot of points for themselves, brought out a lot of, as you said, domination.
Exactly, and Team Prime, I mean, they were able to flip the tables. They were able to flip the odds against the players of Equinox, even though the odds were favoring Equinox. Equinox, they charged in inside the compound, but Team Prime, in a defensive stance, did a great job defending it.
They did so perfectly indeed. And MAKPEN again, I mean, this is the game where I did genuinely think if MAKPEN were able to stop Equinox in the trek, they could have had this game. They had a really good placement into that zone, but yeah, sadly it did not really work out for them.
Exactly, I mean, it doesn't really work out, but now we take a look at the match summary, Blotter. 4 grenade eliminations, that has to be something that I always look at, right? 2 airdrops looted, but we did not see an AWM action yet, and I want to see that skull-cracking AWM in the action soon.
It's probably going to be around pretty soon, mate. It is definitely not too far out, that's for sure. As of now, as we move through through the match summary. I mean, the weekly eliminations, that is something that I'm looking forward to in the map of Sanhok, and maybe could be brought on, but overall we shall see what the day will bring at the end with the vehicle eliminations. As of now, it is sitting at 0 from one game to the other. With all that done and dusted, looking at that match ranking, Doom Esports 14 eliminations, 15 placement point chicken dinner, 29 points in total. What is going on? These teams that are sitting or getting those elimination points, they are just racking up those numbers like easy sports that they're doing in their dreams.
I mean, talk about easy stuff, right? I mean, Gangsters. Yeah, this is where you talk about a team like Gangsters coming in, right, Blotter? I mean, they were looking so good in this game of Wrangle, or they have been looking really good from the start of the day today, but that overconfident move from Mr. Smokey V2, that cost them the entire fight right there, and that's what messed things up against Team Prime. If Smokey V2 doesn't run out in the open in that house, then he could have been able to stay alive or at least do something, or at least inflict more pain and hurt on Team Prime and try and at least pull something off. I'm pretty sure Smokey V2 is one of those players that is absolutely insane when it comes to the firepower, so Smokey will definitely pack a punch and try and stop the punch. I feel like it could have been really tough for Team Prime, but unfortunately Smokey V2 just steps out of his comfort zone, just moves out in the open, and he gets instantly taken out. That was well done, or that was well execution even from the side of Team Prime, as we do have the damage graph and 14 eliminations from Doom Esports. This is what we saw with the damage to back it up of 2,797.
Absolutely, mate, and there is no team around in the vicinity of even close to 2,000. So yeah, that itself is a dominating force that is to be reckoned with as we progress on through these games. That is coming in all the way from, of course, Mongolia. And then we've got, of course, Rex Esports sitting on that second right there with the 839 damage, but 3 elimination points of their own. Equinox were looking very comfortable, of course, as they always do when it comes to those elimination points and the damage graph for themselves. But this is where we can also talk about F1 really not having a good day. As one game to the next, they just are not able to find the prime spots for themselves. But hey, I guess it's just the way it had to be. But again, it's not too late. I still do want to see some comebacks from these teams, as we've got 2 games remaining.
I mean, talk about the comebacks. I personally feel like day 1, or at least these final 2 games, has to be an invitation for comebacks. If in these final 2 games, we're not really seeing any of these teams just rising from the dead, then we might as well just call them dead.
That is again a risky maneuver, but it is definitely based on the stats that are being dictated right here, and easy picking as well, as we look on to the difference between the first team sitting on that pole position with Doom Esports at 52 points, and the difference between them and the 8th position team is going to be Rex and RC sitting on that 8th position with 22 points. I mean, yeah, that itself kind of showcases that these teams on the second page, they've got to really bring up the gameplay if they want to be a part of that top-notch squads. Otherwise, it's going to get maybe a bit too grim as we move on to day 2.
Exactly, and talk about the day 2, man. I already just cannot wait for day 2, because I know in grand finals, mostly in grand finals, the overall rankings are the closest they can be. And sometimes a one single point can make a huge difference in the overall rankings in the first place to the second place. I've seen this happen a lot of times in bigger competitions like PMCO, where one single point can be the difference maker for the first spot.
Which is true, which is definitely true, and that, of course, we will find out on day number 2. But right now, sticking on to day number 1 conversations, we've got 2 games remaining. We're done with 3. We've got 2 Erangles done. Miramar completed. Now we shall move on to game 4. That is going to bring in a different approach, maybe a lot more eliminations this time around.
Yeah.
That will be spread across the board, is what I'm anticipating on the Sanhok.
Exactly, as we are going to be moving on over to Sanhok soon, ladies and gentlemen. And again, Blotter, teams will need to adjust now. A huge change in the pace of the entire game. Sanhok, a much more smaller map. I'm expecting the brawls, or I'm expecting the skirmishes to hit the deck this time pretty quickly. I'm expecting a high octane. I'm expecting a high action game.
Definitely. I mean, it is Sanhok, right? So you know for a fact that Sanhok kind of does open up those flabby folds that are available for these teams to, even if they like to stick on to the edges, even if they like to try and play a low-key play, this is the map that will allow them to just go out guns blazing and get a lot of opportunity and a lot of third-party approaches and kills for themselves and the teams. But we shall see. We shall see. That is what the map holds. What exactly does the PUBG God have in store for these teams? We shall have to see, of course. We shall have to find out. Again, along with all of that, we know for a fact that it is a small map, right? So the conversations are going to be very quick, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully, we have seen some extended Sanhoks as well.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. These days, especially like these competitions being rising so high every single day in PUBG Mobile, is that a lot of teams now are taking a tactical approach, or at least they're finding a way to take a tactical approach, even in the game of Sanhok. Especially those med strats, Blotter. That's something that will also come into play. So, considering that we are currently in the underdog session, considering we are in the PMCO. I'm expecting a lot of teams to go for those med strat because that is guaranteed placement points.
It is definitely going to be guaranteeing placement points, but which team is going to be, which region rather, I'm going to keep it down to that, which region teams it is going to be that will be waiting and just sticking out in the blues and waiting to get that med strat going for themselves. I do want to be able to see a lot more, action rather than just sticking out in the blues and getting that health all back up. But again, I mean, it's a strategy that has definitely worked out for so many teams for such a long time. So yeah, nothing taken away from that sort of an approach, especially from teams that really need to have a good game, because after all, 3 games are already done, and now we're kind of getting a picture as to where are the teams sitting at in terms of the play style, in terms of the prowess that they bring in to the table, to the lobby.
Exactly. I mean, talk about bringing stuff to the table. It seems like, or at least I think the Sanhok should be lined up soon too, Blotter, because I just cannot wait to just straight up head inside the jungle of Sanhok and wait for that absolute blood fest, or wait for an absolute wreck fest, because Sanhok, that's what Sanhok is known for, as we do have the plane fly path as well in front of us, starting all the way from Nakam all the way towards Mongnai. And a lot of teams, just ejecting out at the start. For example, for Nepali boys too, just heading towards Sami. And then you have MAKPEN too, going towards Camp Charlie. Equinox, on the other hand, though, going on the top left island, a much more safer approach from their side, trying to keep a lot of distance from the other teams.
Absolutely, and that is again going to be a good thing, at least for now, in the initial few moments of the game itself, of course, wherein the teams have the opportunity. But again, it is a small map. So you've got let's say like 5 minutes, 6 minutes-ish, and then you really have to get on the high horse to get on either a vehicle or just start running across through to the zone, where indeed those opportunities will be provided to the other teams to get that easy pickings. It is one of those maps that once you get into a vehicle, you will be spotted. Once you get into a vehicle, you will be spotted, and with that, without a vehicle, without any utility, without any gun, it is looking like next NRC, Rex NRC's doom has been caught, and it is a Mountain. I was just gonna say mouse and cat, but no, never mind. It is an easy coming in as a point for some from Grim Gaming Esports.
Yeah, it's a Tom and Jerry chase. It was there for a while, but finally the dramatic cartoon scene has ended, and it was Sandesh who came out on top. And Grim Gaming Esports, okay, showing so far, but again, if we talk about, we're already done with 3 games, and now we're moving on to the 4th. Teams will need to amp up the pace. Teams will need to amp up the aggression as well, because the way they're playing right now, it is definitely not enough. Something needs to be changed. Again, as I said, if Plan A is not working out, shift on over to Plan B. If Plan B as well is not working out, shift on over to Plan C and try and make a Plan C. And it's better to at least try than losing thinking that you haven't tried,
True. Definitely. I mean, going to be able to, again, it is a quick 2-day affair, right? So you really want to be able to just move on from one match to the other with just one understanding in the head, that reset. One game done, reset, push on your level best, and then take on the next match and the next map. And that's how you want to be able to approach. But Yeah, I mean, let's just point it out. I mean, for the likes of F1, let's say, for example, right? I mean, we have seen this team kind of struggle a little, and right now as well, it seems like they're not looking pretty good. I mean, Alpha Boy, he has been caught, and he's out by himself against GOZA Cyclone. So it is a 1v1 situation, but I could not see in the minimap any teammates around in for a revival between those two heads. But before we move on through a fight between those two, we've got Team Prime once again on the hunt, once again on the run and the push. And this time around, they've got the team that likes to end the game. It is going to be TEG, where Cool has been brought down, and the revival survival story for him at least is yeah, not looking good on this map.
Exactly. I mean, Team Prime too. They've realized TEG, which is team in game, and unfortunately, yeah, we talked about the survival instincts, Blotter, and that's how the end game likes to play. But in the map of Sanhok, the teams that do like to play on the survival instincts, they're forced out of their comfort zone and actually take the fights. So this is something that might just not that might not be a map of the end game, because again, as we do know, they like to take things slow, and Sanhok is not a slow map. It is a much more faster map compared to Erangel and Miramar. So we would rather want to go for a med strat if I am the end game.
Perhaps we could still see that play coming in from the side of that team, but right now we've got the Gangsters. The Gangsters have been on a perfect ride, and day number 1 is looking very, very good for them. But again, for now, we shall have to see what sort of a play will be brought. There's only 4.5 minutes into the game, and look at how this team likes to play it. The side of the end game, bringing in an entertaining play and story right here, even though they've lost Cool right there. They're pretty comfortable, you know. I mean, they're moving on across with a decent pace across this map, and they've got nothing to worry or take any you know, concern about, because after all, well, they have had some decent runs. They have had some really good games. They are looking comfortable, and right now all they want to do is keep that consistency alive. And along with that, I mean, if they're given the opportunity, they do want to bring us some entertaining plays and entertainment as well. But ouch! Okay, that was not allowed, mates. What have you done? What have you done to yourselves? They have been brought out, and the dance has turned into a grim reap and halt, because Grim Sandesh will be the man bringing down the numbers of the side of that team, and the end game has come in a bit too quick for the side of TEG.
I was just about to say, the end game definitely have done a great job of cracking the code when it comes to rotating inside the zones, but man, well, I was way too early to speculate that, because the end game, they just get absolutely demolished in that fight. Grim Gaming Esports doing a great job so far, being the Grim Reapers off the entire Sanhok.
Absolutely. Sandesh is the man. Sandesh has just been so spot on in terms of the way he's been able to just deliver those leads into his opponents. But again, is it a one-time story, or is it going to just keep on continuing on from just him or the entire team? I mean, there's so many questions that could be raised, but overall, in the end, one thing that can be said, it's a good storyline. It's a good play being showcased from Grim's side, and that is what they wanted as well. So perfect, nothing taken away from them as we move on through and push on to another team that has also been looking pretty good in terms of the way that they've actually picked up the pace of the game, is going to be HellRaisers.
Exactly. Grim, I mean, so far, they've had the pedal to the metal. They're looking really confident, too, in this game. But how are they going to try to, later on, even just adapt to the environment that Sanhok's going to be throwing them towards? Because later on, things are about to get even more intense, Blotter.
Absolutely. Those third-party situations, fourth-party situations, I mean, it gets chaotic. It gets real chaotic. You don't want to be a part of that sort of a fight out in the open, that's for sure. And that also is always based on what the zone is going to be doing, and if the zone is actually allowing you some sort of a cover or a compound that you could utilize for yourself. As of now, we're looking at MAKPEN, who have actually spotted and nailed down 4 Nepali players, one player. So 4 Nepali boys are in a little bit of a troublesome situation, but again, the teammates are there, so nothing to worry about. But one thing that is not going to be good for the side of 4 Nepali boys is that their positioning has been given away. And looking at the mini-map, MAKPEN, they are set up so spot on. They've got all of the angles covered from that compound, whichever opponent team comes in towards their vicinity. As of now, same is the case maybe for the side of Brilliance, but they definitely are going to get consistent, and there is going to be none other than Grim trying their luck and pushing on through, but it seems Brilliance have been dropped down as well. So it has been taken down to a 3v3 situation between these two, and the revival is just going around the corner between them as well. But Brilliance, they're not yet done. They're definitely wanting to utilize the numbers together as Grim Reapers have spread themselves thin.
It is so confusing that why did Beck not fire back in that one? And that's something that's really confusing me at this point in time, is that Beck could have actually tried to provide the cover fire, but still somehow Grim, they're able to rise from the ashes in this fight, and they're able to flip the tables. Man, we're seeing a lot of clutches being made. I mean, even though it's not like 1-on-3 clutch or something, but still, a clutch is something that even if you're able to fight against the odds and you're able to come out on top, I personally call that a clutch.
Definitely, that would be a clutch indeed, and that is of course where Grim Gaming Esports have been able to get themselves really good numbers in terms of the elimination points for themselves. I mean, I do believe that when it came down to him moving away from that play area was, or rather that fight was, maybe Sanhok. I'm not sure. Maybe there was a communication that was that we want to keep this player alive and surviving towards the end halves of the games. But maybe that was not. In the end, they still got the fight. They walked away with one casualty, but they've got the numbers to, of course, prove that worth. So it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Along with that, we've got not one, but two airdrops jumping in together right here as we move in through the 10-minute marker of this game. 13 teams remain with 47 players.
Talk about that. I mean, still, the circle's going to have enough amount of space to contain all these teams. Not much problem for any one of these. Every single team currently in here, they're just waiting for the next circle to hit the deck. And as soon as it does, we're probably going to be seeing another Hellbreak lose. Where will the next circle shift towards, Blotter? Because again, I personally feel like Grim, they found themselves a really good spot, and they're currently right in the smack center. And yep, there we go. The circle will not center on up, tilted a little bit on the bottom left side.
Ooh, I would love for this to go down to the Painan area, all down to the center of the two islands right now. Maybe that would be brilliant if that works out. But hey, we shall see if that'll be the case for now. Again, as we try and look on to teams that are close in the vicinity. We've got GOZA ESports making a rotation. They are in the vehicles. So, of course, a lot of audio cues that they are giving away to the opponent teams. But maybe that is how they love to play. That is how they want to be aggressing in to the compound and just completely annihilating whatever team is in there. And that is what they're anticipating. But that, of course, is not the case because I, as a caster, know that there is nobody in there. But yeah, that was a really good communicated synergistic push coming in from their side as they all got in the vehicles and of course took care of the angles as we saw flanks coming in from them in the vehicles as well with a two-man split.
Man, talk about a two-man split. I mean, so far we're just in the podcast hours, right, Blotter? Talking about podcast hours, share an experience with me. Share an interesting experience with me, Blotter, please. I would like to know.
An experience.
An interesting experience.
So this is Necro's podcast hours have begun
guys.
This time around on the map of Sanhok. 11 minutes in as we look at GOZA ESports trying to make their presence felt and of course know of any presence around in the area. Now moving on away from that to an experience. Well, what sort of an experience are you thinking about, mate?
I don't know, man. Any experience that you feel like was something and that you really want to share with the people that are currently in the chat watching too, you know? And this is the same question for the chat as well. If you guys have any interesting questions or any interesting, not questions, interesting stories you guys want to share in the chat, I mean, let us know, you know? It's quite interesting. Maybe you'll find someone who finds your story interesting and you guys might be good friends. I'm trying to help people make friends here, Blotter.
Hey. All right. To that cause, I'll say
no
I really want to have a chicken dinner tonight, and I really want to see a chicken dinner coming in with you know, with like a lot of masala in there, a lot of chaos theory being brought on into that, and from spicy. A team perhaps.
Oh, so are you like a spicy, salty, or sugar guy?
See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about sourdough bread right here. I'm talking about sourdough bread in terms of the way that I want to be able to see that chicken dinner. You know, a team comes out of nowhere, takes on the chicken dinner by a surprise, have not really been performing good, or in fact, have not really been in the limelight as well. As we've spoken about so many teams till now, there are still a few who we've not really brought out to the forefront. And I really do want to see what sort of a play will that be. But again, that is where I draw the line in terms of sharing, because it is still an anticipation. And of course, it could go either ways, because I, being the caster, could also be the one cursing this through.
Oh, trust me, man. I've seen some insane caster curses in the past, Blotter.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Insane caster curses. It's like, oh, I want this team to win, and then the next second, it's
already happened with me today.
Getting taken out. Yeah,
on the map of Miramar.
Dude, let me tell you what. I don't know. I mean, let me tell you what. Zute is really well known for caster curse, and it's not just one, Blotter. Whenever he makes a prediction, it's that team usually just getting taken out early.
GG. See, now that's a really good question to be had. Is that a GG? Is that a really good play? Or is that something that's
what I said, right? I mean, imagine you find someone who's a caster cursor, right? Imagine who's really good at caster curse. I would make a team of myself, and I'd keep that person in my team, and I'd be like, all right, make a prediction now, because we want to win. It's just curse that team. And yeah, but yeah, jokes aside, ladies and gentlemen, the next circle actually is going to shift up north, right on top of boot camp, and also covering the majority of the teams, but the circle's not going to have enough amount of space, Blotter, to contain all the teams in it.
That is true. That is true for now, because the numbers of the team that are still surviving, I mean, yeah, the zone is just not going to be an easy one for them to be able to jump into the zone and still keep on that surviving strategy working for them, as we do see GOZA making an attempt to do so in the yellow from the south. Just that one vehicle that we can see right between MAKPEN. We do have HR on the right towards Quarry, and that is the player of GOZA. So yeah, that opening was created from his side, but that vehicle that he was in does give him that perfect play. That is swiftness. That swiftness is what led him to that compound, but now that information has been relayed to the other two teams around in the vicinity, and as we come back to that later on, as we are looking on to a fight, or rather expecting a fight, we've got Roar not having a good day this time around, as we've got Grim Gaming, who have spotted them. 10 defeats is what Grim Gaming Esports is sitting at. They've got the safety net covered already. Now they're just trying to rack up those numbers as successfully as they can.
Exactly, and the Grim Gaming Esports now just blind firing inside the smoke, hoping that maybe they'll find a connection. But nothing to report from the players, neither from the bullets. Those bullets are not finding any connections. Or at least Grim Gaming, they're trying to do something, but Roar, they're doing a great job of keeping themselves anonymous behind a rock-solid cover.
For now, it's looking pretty okay for their side. It was looking a little tricky as they tried to make that push, but seems like they've stopped in the tracks, and that's a really good decision coming in from them. 16 minutes into this game, 13 teams still surviving, 13 teams. But yeah, this is the moment when things are going to get absolutely iffy-diffy, because we do have the zone constricting, and that is where the teams are going to be pushed to make on those rotations, as was the case for the side of Roar's soldiers. But sadly, they were caught from one side. It was, as we just saw, the Gangsters. The Gangsters on the other side, it was just not allowed. Now they're down to a one-man squad. But before we bring up that name, let's have a look at this smart play coming into the UMP from side of Team Prime, as he is going to be delivering some massive blows to the players of Doom Esports, as they thought they were out in the open by themselves. But hey, there's a lurker watching through those watchtowers.
Exactly, as we do have Doom Esports just moving around, repositioning themselves, as we have Team Prime pushing on over Doom Esports. This could be their demise, but Team Prime 2 doing a great job separating themselves apart, trying to gain as much visual info as possible. Is the man in the close spotted, though? It seems like, yeah, now they have clear info, and he cannot really do much there. Fist Boy will be taken out easily. Team Prime doing a great job sticking together as a pack, but this nade might just decimate that pack. Oh, but it's not going to be on the mark. Blotter missing the mark. Doom Esports, they're down to just that final solo man survivor, and they were inside the game with only 3 players too. Interesting.
Exactly. Just not looking good, and it seems like Sile, the only option left for him is to backtrack and get out of there as soon and quickly as he possibly can. But he best be careful, because again, this is the moment where the third party situations absolutely do start happening, as a lot of information has been relayed in terms of the auditory cues, and that is where we've got the side of Doom Esports' Style only moments away from his demise, as Grim will catch him off, and in doing so, Doom Esports get eliminated with 0 eliminations this time around on the map of Sanhok. The Gangsters are looking comfortable, as we can see in the kill feed. We've got HellRaisers taking on a fight against the players of F1, as well as GOZA chimes in as a third man army.
GOZA, as you did mention, they do chime in, and look at that DBS, man. That's something I'm really scared about. That thing gives me nightmares. So imagine the players. If you do get bopped right in the face with that gun, you stand no chance of fighting back. DBS will just minimize all those chances, but talk about spamming this time. It's Goku just mowing down the teams in the front, just being an absolute meat grinder. Goku's on a manhunt. Flames won. So far, a great capitalization from their side, and HellRaisers just getting taken down by one single man of Flames won.
I just saw in the kill feed, Rory's player, the Roar Soldier's final player that was surviving, was also able to get his revenge against the players of Grim, as he all by himself was able to bring down some players as well and bring some elimination points for the side of his team. 12 total teams surviving right now. We've got the side of F1 Goku on the run, on the open to try and get some chaos created with the open team, but Roar, final player, Mr. Savage, is the man that I was talking about, who was able to bring some grim play to the revenge that he got. And right now, of course, he himself, being the only sole survivor, was eliminated as well. In all of that done and doing, Grim Gaming Esports get eliminated with 11 elimination points, along with, of course, the placement points. So a wonderful game coming in from their side as we push on to another fight, a 3v3 situation. Oh, my correction, it's a 3v2 between MAKPEN and GOZA.
GOZA currently really good compound. I mean, a nice split too. It's a 3-1 split, if I'm not wrong, from the side of GOZA. And that split will help them out, getting a lot of sight lines on the team in the front, but the wall of death is moving in, so that means the man who's separated out will need to try and close the distance, and that's what he's exactly doing. Will cross on in the open, does have a little smoke to provide that cover and also block the visual of the enemy team, as we have Gangsters taking down the team in the front. This time it's Team Prime on the receiving end, but they still fight back in style. Oh no, scratch that, it's actually a third party.
It definitely was a third party indeed, and in doing so, it has been elimination. That is what they will be brought to the face, and the ouch moment being created for the side of MAKPEN this time around. F1 had a little bit of chiming into that as well, as he was able to bring down Moma earlier on before the push was even made. And in all of that, we are looking at 21 minutes into the game, 19 surviving, a few players going outside thanks to the blue zone. Equinox still have 3 players surviving this time around. They've only got 5 elimination points confirmed for their side. But again, it's too early, because again, we know for a fact that the way this team likes to play is all-out aggressiveness, and that is exactly what Doc is showcasing right here on top of that roof. Of course, a lot of open area from his side for the opponent teams to be able to just bring him down, but yeah, he don't care. He wants those elimination points one way or the other, and that's exactly what he's working towards.
Yeah, 4 Nepali boys right there. Oh, Dr. Odin just spray as well, connects a little bit. And look at GOZA. I mean, the wall of death is taking a lot of damage. He's also going for the patch, and he will be able to just clutch it at the end second right there. And this is why wall of death needs to be respected now, because this time it'll take out chunks of HP from you, unless if you have a lot of first aids to go for a med strat. For Nepali boys, Dr. Odin doing a great job just keeping these players off at bay, just trying to hold them off at bay right there, making sure they're not really being able to enter inside the zone. But still, somehow, GOZA, they're slipping by before Nepali boys. They capitalize again. They get the grip back up in this fight.
Oh, we just got a little bit of glimpse of that map, of that zone, and we've got DE Gangsters looking very comfortable on that northeastern front of the map, where they've got no other team around the vicinity. As we can see in the minimap now, it is the team in the green that once it gets into the zone, the Gangsters are going to be ruling the way this lobby is going to be dictated in the next few minutes. But right now, they need to take care of one more team, and that's going to be 4 Nepali boys.
Exactly, Kuwait tosses a nade on in. Yeah, the nade's probably not going to be making any sort of markers, or not going to be hitting any sort of markers yet. For Nepali boys, though, now the presence is being known that the team in the front is not someone to mess around with. And Gangsters, that's what they exactly wanted to do too. Are we going to be seeing anyone just going for the immense strike? So far, it doesn't seem the case like that for Nepali boys. The opening they needed, they finally find it. This time, it's going to be Equinox on the receiving end. Kenzaz crawls out in the open, doesn't exactly know where he got shot from, and he will be instantly confirmed too. While DE Gangsters, another nade tossed in from inside of Kuwait, and Kuwait is known for his really good or really heroic mechanics. And Gangsters, they will need to play, or they will need to keep their heads low.
They're definitely going to need to keep their heads low, as they did get into this fight thinking that they've got the advantage, but sadly that's not the case, as we've got the 4 Nepali boys taking on the advantage against the other 4 Nepali boys. That's going to be the Gangsters, and in doing so, well, again, I mean, none is the wiser, because they've both got all 4 players surviving, but now this seems to be the opening that they were waiting for, and Godson, that is the delay that was made thanks to his Molotov. But hey, you talk about that gun, Kuwait had it, but in the end, for Nepali boys, they just eliminate the way that DE were looking, because all of them rushed in and sadly were just not able to walk out with the eliminations that they thought. As we can see, I mean, for Nepali boys, they're able to get that revival, and all 4 players are still going to be able to survive.
Fallen 5. Anish. I mean, Fallen 5 in such a tricky spot right now, Blotter. Right on the edge of the zone. They do want to make it in 2, but the teams on the top are going to be causing so much trouble for them. And the team on the top currently is just 4 Nepali boys. They were able to rule out a team like Gangsters. That means 4 Nepali boys definitely are looking so promising. And we talked about this, Blotter. After the first 3 games, teams will need to take it more serious and try to step it up. And that's what 4 Nepali boys, they're implementing in their gameplay. Slowly and steadily, Mango moving into. But he has no clue that there is a man in the close now. He finally will find out there is a man just relying on the clotheslines. And Anish is actually able to inflict some pain. He's able to get 1 knockout. That will help Fallen 5 so much. But unfortunately, he falls down too. Now it's all down to the last man, the final glimmer of hope alive, Pirate Zod.
Well, a 3v1 situation, not really looking too comfortable with the Molotov to his face. This could be the grim end that he did not anticipate. And for the Nepali boys, this is a team that really wanted to get these points and have been able to do so perfectly as they try and deliver a massive blow to their opponents in this lobby. They get a chicken dinner along with that. And moving on away to the 7th position, this team with 9 eliminations and 24 points are looking very comfortable with this Sanhok game for sure.
Talk about looking comfortable. I mean, for Nepali boys, a huge statement. I mean, a 4-on-4 fight won by 4 Nepali boys. They were also inflicting a lot of pain and hurt onto a team like Equinox. Indeed, looking really promising in the 4th game. But we also need to find out, Blotter, is that just a fluke, or is it actually 4 Nepali boys showing up really strong in this one? Because this is the only game where 4 Nepali boys have been this dominant.
Absolutely correct, that is. But hey, I mean, this is the kind of play that was anticipated on the map of Sanhok. We did talk about it, that you are going to see a team that has not really done so well could maybe just, take into the limelight, and that is what Nepali boys have definitely showcased and done so perfectly. But again, like you so perfectly mentioned, right, that is another question to be raised, that was it just a one-time story, or is that going to continue on and push on into their favor? But either ways, I mean, they definitely did get the game and a chicken dinner, so GG's to that play is what I'd say.
Exactly, yeah. As you said, GG's really well played game, even from all the teams, right? Even from top 3, Deadeye's Gangsters, if I'm not wrong, were in the top 3 too. So really well played game from all the teams in the lobby. But Sanhok, as I said, teams were able to adjust on the fly. And we also saw some of the teams like 4 Nepali boys coming up strong too, because we did not really see them out the day. But hopefully in the final game of the Wrangle on this day, they are able to replicate the same thing. Because if they're not, then just doing good in 1 game of those 5 games, that's not going to pan out well, because we talked about this, only 1 more day left.
Well, talking about one more, well, we've got one more game left for the day, and that will be the 5th game. But before we jump in towards that, we've got to have a look at the most valuable player coming into this map the first time that was played. That is going to be on Sanhok. And four Nepali boys jump in with Jordan taking the lead. 5 eliminations with 714 damage, 0 assists. That means he was just all by his lonesome going on gun. Well, again, I mean, we saw the approach that 4 Nepali boys actually were taking. That was not all out guns blazing. That was a very synergistic play from their side. But still, I mean, that is the finisher of the team for sure.
Talk about the finisher. I mean, yeah, 4 Nepali boys definitely did pack a punch without a doubt, and they were able to knock those teams out in the front. 5 elimination points and damage dealt of 714 with the survival time of 24:39 with 0 assists and 4 knockouts. 4 Nepali boys definitely have proven a lot of things here in this one, or at least in this game. But as I said, just performing in the game of Sanhok won't just cut it. They will have to play, or they will have to be really consistent in the upcoming games too, because if they're not, then oh boy. Only the overall rankings will speak for itself. I don't even need to say a single word.
Exactly, exactly, right? And as we move away from the MVP and move through to the top players list, we've of course seen 4 Nepali boys Jordan sit on that first with the MVP. On the second is going to be F1's Goku. Now this man, he is a legend in today's plays when it comes down to the revenge story being created from F1, because they were damaged quite early into the game. But this dude, Goku, he just pushed on from one fight to the next, and being in the blues, able to give out damage was definitely quite a limelight, is what I would say, that F1's Goku brought to his team. But away from that, we move towards the players, of course, of DE Gangsters. I mean, Mr. Smokey, we had a phenomenal play showcased when he tried to get some well, again, very close they were to be able to capitalize on that compound, but just not allowed is what the case was against them. But moving away from the top players list, they've got the match summary, Nikra.
Exactly. Match summary of day 1 match 4 with 54 eliminations and 54 knockouts. Well, that's actually a really good conversion right there. So we pretty much, whichever player just got knocked out, he got instantly confirmed too. So there was no room, or there was no chance for even a little slip by. If you are knocked, you are dead. And instantly, you do take your glance on the longest elimination too, 216 meter. Total healings done are going to be 6,362. And Blotter, no med strat this time. Teams, they want to play a fair game here.
Exactly, and that is something I absolutely do love, because you want to be able to go out all aggressive into the battleground, and that is exactly what these teams are doing, which is commendable from my side. And what I'm not really too happy about is that vehicle elimination is still there, sitting at 0. Airdrops looted is also interestingly sitting at 0 this time around. But with that, we shall have a look at the match standings from this map of Sanhok. They've got, of course, the team sitting all the way on the top with the chicken dinner. That's going to be 4 Nepali boys with 9 eliminations. So yeah, quite a aggressive approach from the side of these boys.
Yeah, exactly. Aggressive approach indeed. And 4 Nepali boys, yeah, only 9 eliminations though. I mean, considering, I'm just calling it only, but considering what we've seen from a team like Team Doom, 9 eliminations are close enough, I guess. As long as 4 Nepali boys are able to stay consistent in that placement points, that's all that will matter. Gangsters too, unfortunately, they were not really able to secure that chicken dinner because 4 Nepali boys were a huge thorn in their way. Let's take a look at the second page and let's find out how the latter half of the board is really placing themselves in the match rankings.
Well, as we move to the second half of this match rankings, we've got Doom Esports sitting all the way on the 16th position, Rex and RC on the 15th with 0 points. Team End Game also not having a good play, as well as HellRaisers. MAKPEN, yeah, they really, I mean, I don't know, they need to find out the way that they're going to be playing these remaining games, because it is just slowly and steadily the opportunities are moving away from this Bhutani team.
Talk about the opportunities, man. Doom ESP having a really bad Sanhok game right there. Considering Doom ESP's firepower has been looking absolutely phenomenal, but this time the firepower is not able to replicate or follow through on Sanhok. And I personally thought that Doom ESP should be able to just go all guns blazing and do really good, but they were not really able to do so. They got eliminated quite early off.
Absolutely, as we shall move on to the damage graphs, the buildings in the sky. Let's see how quick and close were they on Sanhok. Well, not at all favorable, because I really wanted to see all the teams chime in to be a part of those fights, but sadly, in fact, this time around, looking at the damage graph compared to the 4 games that we've already seen the damage graph from, this is one of the worst. So many teams walking away with 0 eliminations, so many teams walking away with barely any damage graphs.
Exactly. I mean, if we do now, let's move on over and let's take a look at the overall rankings blotter, because this is something that will tell us a huge storyline of this entire PMCO, right, in the grand final especially. And as we do take a look at the overall rankings, Equinox, again, the throne hasn't taken away from them. They're still leading the charts with 58 total points. Doom ESP is right underneath them, though, with 52 points. And then you have the End Game PS right underneath on 3rd spot. These are the top 3.
Exactly, and from there we move all the way down to the 8th position. We've got Flames 1 jumping on to that 8th position. Look at 4 Nepali boys, very well done indeed. 9 positions jump is what they've been able to make from this game, and as you so perfectly mentioned, Necro, we just want to be able to see them consistently now push on from that envelope to be that much more better in every remaining game. With that, we shall move on and have a look at the rest of the teams in the overall standings. The storyboard is looking a little too dicey for these teams, as not a lot of changes are being showcased from the side in terms of the difference between the 9th and the 16th position team. But one thing still stands true and strong, and in fact was just showcased from the side of 4 Nepali boys, that one good game still leads an opportunity for these teams on the second page to be able to jump into the top 8 to the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Blotter, so far, I would say the first day overall rankings are looking pretty good. And the end game, though, they've done a really good job showing them or keeping themselves up on the top 3 on this day. But the final game will matter the most here. If you're going to be able to end things on a great note, you should be able to start things on a great note tomorrow as well. And you really need to have a good game in the final one. Especially, I'm talking to the latter half of the board. You guys will need to make a statement in this final game. If you guys are not going to be able to, then it'll be done.
It will be. It is going to be tough luck for them if they jump into tomorrow's games with not that many points for them. But again, I mean, it is just one final game that again will be played on a wrangle. So 2 wrangles have already been played. What sort of a strat? What sort of a Loki strat? What sort of a different play can you bring? You know, that you can completely outshine the lobby with from the second page. Jump on the first. Yeah, I mean the stacks are definitely against, but at the same point in time, the fans' love and base is always going to be supported to these teams. So yeah, I just wanted to see a GG game from them for sure. But let's also see how big a lead is going to be when it comes down to the final game. And after that is done, on the first page, what big of a difference are we going to be able to look at? Since the second game, we're looking at roughly about 20 to 30 point difference from the 1st to the 8th position. So let's see.
I mean, from the 1st to the 8th position, things are looking pretty okay, right? But then this is where the latter half of the board is something that we really need to start being concerned about, because the latter half of the board, I mean, still I feel like the top 8, or at least the team from a 6 to 8, there's a huge chance that they might just come back. And these teams have a huge chance again. Top 3 from every region will be qualifying in forward for the future lines. So a lot of opportunities, right, to try and capitalize. Some of the best teams will be moving on forward, and if you're lucky enough to qualify in too, then congratulations, but you will need to practice even harder, because these are the ground. If you're going to be barely qualifying in this one, then imagine how tough the future battles or the future tournaments are going to be.
That's very well said there indeed, Necro, because I mean, this sort of conversation ends up becoming a little tricky as to not to hurt onto any team's emotions or anything. But yeah, that is a very fair play and conversation to make. That you need to really be on top of your high horses before the tournaments even begin. And as you jump in from here, it's going to get that much more aggressive as these top 3 teams from these different regions are going to be pushing on along. So we've got 3 teams from Nepal, top 3 teams, that is, of course, top 3 teams coming in from Nepal, from Pakistan, and so on. So it is going to be tough if they're not ready for that sort of a competition, for them to be able to survive in those lobbies. And this is the moment that they need to be able to utilize into their own advantageous positions for now, as we get ready, and so do the teams as well, of course, for the final game of the day. We're looking at the flight path going from south, Primos, all the way towards north, and look at this play coming in from Amir, from Rex and RC. Oh, I thought he wouldn't move. He was waiting and baiting the player, Sujil, but that's not the case.
Yeah, Sujil too is really well aware of what's going on around him. And Rex and RC finally, Amare gets spotted out, and a nice shot with the AKM, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. That headshot just is so much damage to deal with that AKM, and considering that it was just early game phases, he didn't even have any helmet. He just got ruled out in a couple of seconds, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, AKM is just so devastating, man, in those close range especially, and if you do hit a headshot, that'll just put the odds with you no matter what.
Absolutely. Right now, we've got Rex and RC. Alongside them, of course, is going to be Grim Esports as well, very close. Grim Gaming. As these two teams move on to get the better half of this area that they're in, which is going to be down to the southern side of Fairpier, they are trying to make an advantageous play. Rex and RC have had the better half as they've been able to eliminate and bring down the numbers from the side of Grim Gaming. But in doing so, of course, they've also given away their own position. And now both these teams are going to turn into a little bit of a stalemate situation. But who, or which player rather, will be the one that will open up, as they like to call it, this entire snail space approach that is being created between these two?
Talk about a snail-paced approach. Yeah, that's a perfect mention right there from your side. So far, a stalemate, and this is something that I'm not really a huge fan of, Blotter. I don't like an early game stalemate. This hurts team in a really deeper level. Imagine you could utilize this time to reposition yourself better in the zone and also get the comfortable amount of loot. Take a look at these players' loot. Zero first aids, zero boosters, not a lot to work with, and they're already currently just frozen in their spots. They cannot move, where they could have utilized this time to loot up and also make a rotation inside the zone. So much being lost out on.
Definitely agreed. 100% agreed over there with you, mate. I am, but that's what the case has turned out to be, and it seems like not for long, because the opening that we're waiting for is going to be brought on from the side of Grim Gaming, and Grim Gaming Sandesh is the dude who has been able to down Doom for now, but of course that does not mean that the elimination point has been confirmed, but the opening has been created, and Amar out in the open from Rex and RC, also trying to bring in a lot of damage to the players of Grim Gaming, where Grim Gaming have themselves spread out. Mr. Zox, we can see, is down to almost sliver of an HP remaining on him. On the other front, for the side of Sandesh, these two players have jumped in with a mini in the hand of Hazen. He is just absolutely dominating and annihilating his play that he wants to be able to create, and that is exactly what he shall get. Sandesh not getting the better half, as we were mentioning. No loot in your hand. You're looking at a P911. Come on, that's really not the kind of fight that you want to be able to create for yourselves. And Rex and RC, the better half of them for this fight, is the only fact that they got these huger weapons, for lack of a better term. I mean, you're looking at AKMs against, seriously, that's exactly what it is.
And this is where we talked about this, right? This is where we talked about the majority of the area was covered by Rex and RC too, so they're able to charge on forward easily. It's a 3-on-1 split from their side. Grim Gaming, unfortunately, they have nothing to patch themselves up with too. Mr. Zrox, we saw he has no first aids to work around with, and he will have to fight this entire battle out with just that much HP, with just like 20% of HP. How is this supposed to be turned into the favor of Grim? I mean, not gonna lie, Grim do have a really good spot, a really good positioning overall, but
right,
it cannot be flipped around, or it cannot be flipped against Rex if you don't have the manpower to help you with.
Exactly. That is so true. And again, I mean, with the number of games that are provided to these teams, right? We're not looking at that many. So you want to be able to bring in a perfect play pretty much every single time, which I understand is very, very tough. But if nothing else, then bring in a consistent approach. I mean, that is something that we've seen from the side of Grim Gaming earlier as well, where they decided in the previous match to not be a part of the fight and just walk away and walk out. And that's absolutely fine, because they were looking on to being that much more, better suited and looted before they jump into the fight. But this time around, they were caught And that resulted in Rex NRC getting a lot of these points, and now they're on the hunt, they're on the move with a pretty good looking setup for themselves. And this is exactly the compound that they were waiting to find, with Grimm's one final player out in the open. He is going to be jumping away, and it seems like he will be able to walk out. Oh, okay, never mind. Mr. Zox will be caught, and he will be brought down as well. Thus remaining is only one player from Grim Gaming, and that's going to be Beck.
Oh, Vec. Show us what you got, man. This is your time to shine. A 1-on-4 clutch, a do-or-die situation. Is Vec going to be able to pop off right here when he really needs to? He can try and hold this staircase off, and that's what he's doing. Oh, he actually has... Does he have a DBS in his hands, too? Is that what I heard? Is that the bop of DBS? Or, oh, yeah, he does, but unfortunately, he does not land any shots, Blotter. I know they're also shooting his dead body. Oh, a little bit of salt rubbed on the wounds of Grim Gaming.
Not looking good, and indeed, it seems like the final game of the day is turning into a roller coaster ride for these teams in the lobby, as we've got one fight next to other, where indeed the side of Brilliance have stopped Roar in their tracks again. I mean, Roar Soldiers, the way they try and make that push, this is looking very comfortable because the flank angle being created by Mr. Savage, but Brilliance are brilliant in terms of how they read the game, and they were able to absolutely spot and smell that dude, and in doing so, that perfect flank that I thought could maybe favor Roar Soldiers, but it is definitely not. In doing so, it is down between these two players, and just a minute before, of course, Brilliance player also gets his teammates involved, and that would be the end for Roar Soldiers. As we see this happen, I do want to point out Roar Soldiers 3 times, in fact, I've noticed them today in terms of how they approach those fights. Yeah, they're lacking synergy, mate. They're really lacking synergy, and communication is just slacking a little bit, is what I would say.
I'm not gonna lie, communication is something that is the most key in a pro team. You really need to have that communication. Those 4 players, or those 4 teammates, need to have a nice communication between them. They need to be some good friends to understand each other's play style. They need to have played with each other for a really long time too. F1 Alpha Boy, really close, and this time it's Doom Esports that might just be on the receiving end. But oh, DME realize, AX realizes he's right underneath. He did hear those footsteps coming in close, and that's going to be more than enough for Doom Esports to capitalize on. F1 pushed in a really disadvantageous spot now in this fight.
F1 really haven't had a good day, mate. It's just clearly evident that they are not having a good day. Looking on the other fronts, we've got NRC, Rex NRC taking on fight against the players of Equinox. It seems like Rex have woken, but well, I guess I said it too late because they were awoke and then they were dormant thanks to Equinox's approach and aggression.
How could I be approach and aggression? Doom Esports, bullets are really whizzing past close to them. But yet, nothing really found. So we have Doom Esports. All 4 players are still up. AX is down to half HP. How can they try and flip things around this time? So far, they're looking pretty okay, but they have taken a lot of damage. The players were quite hurt. They should have enough amount of meds to patch themselves up. Flames won, though. To recover from a spot like this, to recover from such a dip that they've had in this game, already losing out on 2 players this early in the game, and now just having 2 players to work with for the rest of the game. Something miraculous needs to happen for them to actually get even close to winning this game, as we have Nepali boys in front of us, and Brilliance just whizzing past so close. How are they even alive?
Just by sheer brilliance, maybe just by sheer luck, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure, but in all of that, the intelligence is being showcased from the side of Brilliance, as we were talking about in the previous fight. So it's being showcased in this one, where Brilliance, they read the situation really well. I guess this one was also read, but just a little too late, and in doing so, they were damaged a little bit. I mean, 4 Nepali boys, they tried, but were just not able to deliver in terms of the elimination that they were hoping for. But the spray definitely was on point. But now they need to be careful, because They have made a lot of noise. They are out in the open. They've got the compound as the safety net, but for how long is what I shall keep my keen eyes towards. But right now, it seems like the other side of Nepali boys, where indeed it is Dr. Odin pushing on to get that elimination confirmed for himself. And it seems like the other player from the side of Aryan from the side of Brilliance has also jumped into exactly the same crosshair spot where it is now easy picking for Dr. Odin, or is he going to fall back because he's got no teammate to be a part of that fight? Or
for Nepali boys, our Brilliance, unfortunately, yeah, the confirmation will be there from their side. For Nepali boys, looking really a 4-man strong squad so far. No casualties on themselves. Brilliance, they stepped in the enemy territory, and now they have to pay the price for that. Doing a really good job defending this too. I mean, Nepali boys,
yeah.
2 players in the defensive stance, rest 2 players on a manhunt.
This is really a turn of play in terms of the approach that they've had compared to the previous games that they were part of, as to how they played in the previous Sanhok and the previous game map of Sanhok, and now this one on Wrangler. Is just brilliant turn of strategy. And it's working. That is the best part as well. But we do want to be able to see if any other team is going to be bringing this sort of approach to this final game. We want to be able to see, because as soon as the game started off, right, Necro, we were looking at, one fight and then moved away from there to the other side, from Grim to the next. And then we had Rex and RC, and then moving away from there. Now we've got Equinox and the Gangsters. Now this is a fight I do really want to be a part of and see what exactly is going to happen, because it seems like Equinox have already had a little bit of hurt, where Sneaks have already been dropped dead. So that means the team is looking at a 3-man squad. They've got the compound, but is it going to be enough? Because looking onto the map, you can see in the green in pretty much the center south of Pochinki, we've got the Gangsters. Now that team is looking very confident, very comfortable. They've got the information, or do they? We shall have to come back to that thought later. But right now, the spot is definitely theirs for the taking.
I mean, getting back to 4 Nepali boys, Blotter, that's confidence. It's confidence, Blotter. That's what confidence does to you. And now this time, just because 4 Nepali boys are way much more gelled up in the lobby, they're way much more confident in making each and every single move they have. They're not really second-guessing themselves anymore. They're able to make those aggressive plays like that. And we want to see teams getting even more comfortable and even more confident in these lobbies. As soon as they start being so, I'm pretty sure we will see some insane gameplays, some more elimination styles, or some more elimination play styles coming in from their side. Because so far, a lot of teams are taking quite a casual and quite a passive approach in the games. We have GOZA in front of us. And this time, GOZA, they're a little bit in a tricky spot. Scratch that, not a little bit. They're in a really tricky spot here. Joker is the only man that's going to be left in the closed side.
Well, Fallen 5, they have really stood, and they have stood through to taking on this final game in towards their favor. In doing so, they have taken down a lot of players from the side of GOZA, but these 2 players, Joker and his teammate, who was in the vicinity scene, there we can see struggle coming in from the flank angle as well, could be the turning pace of this fight. That could maybe indicate that GOZA, they are still not yet done, as Struggle is still trying to find an opening to get into the fight, but I guess it's a bit too late, where Joker will be brought down to his knees, and just like that, well, it wasn't really that easy for the side of Fallen 5 as well, because they had a lot to deal with, but they did deliver, and in doing so, they have been able to accumulate those points, and they have been able to give a lot of players of GOZA, and that was just incredible play from Fired Zord, down to almost 5% HP, but he still did not deter, where indeed the only thing that mattered was to get that elimination point.
Steps out in the open too. Blotter does not play around the cover at all. This man is just here to prove something tonight. I mean, Pirate Zod, I do understand you really do. You got to win your ones, but Pirate Zod, the way he won that was just absolute sheer confidence and knowing that he's just way better than that player. Just stepped out from the cover, was out in the open, just jiggling around, and he got that elimination point. And now Fallen 5, they will wipe out the existence of GOZA Esports from the final game of day 1 of the PMCO Grand Finals, Blotter.
12 teams remaining. MAKPEN still a team that needs to find their safe haven in the safety net of the zone, of course. It's just 145 meters, but of course they do have to leave the compound. Now talking about the the play zone itself, it is actually going to be restricting a lot of these teams' movements, as we did just see Fallen 5 take on the players of GOZA, but not for long before they themselves were hurt, as Blue caught up to them and Pirates Lord was eliminated. We're looking at 12 teams remaining in the 16th minute marker of this game. Oh, very decent approach from the side of these teams in the lobby, definitely, for the final game, and a valiant effort being showcased from especially the team sitting on that second page.
Yeah. Valiant effort indeed. I mean, every single team that has made it up in top 16, they have shown insane amount of efforts to get here in the first place. So they have the chance that they can actually improve themselves. But Equinox, oh, that team's got AWM, the big green monster, in their hands. And they will need to try and silence it somehow, but it's going to be really tough to silence that big green cannon, because the bullet that comes out of it will just straight up demolish, will just straight up crush you into halves. As you have Gangsters as well controlling the majority of the entire Pochinki here in the circle too, playing some nice mind games.
Absolutely, from the eastern front they definitely are, but from the northern side we've got Doom Esports looking very comfortable as well, as they've got a wider spread, but also puts them out in the opening. As soon as one of their players goes down, it is going to be that much more difficult for the side of Doom Esports to be able to get that revival. But right now, when it comes to Pochinki, it is an all-out war happening right here, where they've got so many teams. We've got so many teams out in the open, or not in the open, sorry, out in the Pochinki region, into different compounds, where maybe the fight could actually go down towards that side. As you can see the zone, the map on our screens right now, it is time for it to make a shift and turn. Equinox down towards the south eastern front, and HellRaisers down to the southeastern front. Which side is this zone going to be dictating the fights towards? Will it be constricting onto the teams on Pochinki? Yeah, that would be a good urban finish. But somewhere along the line, I do want to see an open fight, as well as all these teams that are finding themselves in the safety net of the compounds are then rushed to get out into the comfort of the zone, right? Away from the compounds. That is something that would be that much more wonderful.
I personally feel like the circle will. I personally feel like the circle will shift away from Pochinki, unless it's PUBG God who want even more masala, as you like to call it. Then the circle will center on up again in Pochinki. But so far, the chances are the circle will probably shift away, and that's what the glimpses are looking like. Because again, the open fields right next to Pochinki, they're one of the most scariest fields for a circle to shift in.
Yeah, and this being the final game of the day, I really wanted to go up the Rockers, as it has already been, you know, from the start of the game itself altogether. We've been looking at one fight or the next, and then moving away from one total fight domination and team annihilation to the other is what this entire game has turned out to be. So I will see if that's how it's going to turn, and wait a minute, that's not exactly how it's going to turn, as it still does keep a few compounds in the safety net, where we do have DE Gangsters looking very comfortable, as their compounds are going to be in the safety net of the zone. But look at how Equinox have themselves spread out. I mean, they are in the edge. Southern edge is what they are treating themselves with. No team around in the vicinity. They have turned themselves into a slow poke this time around, as the day comes to an end.
Still though, 12 teams alive from 42 players in total. Look at Prime, they spot out a bunch of players in the front, and they're just going to start to spray it down. No matter who's going to be in the front lines, it doesn't matter. All they want is a little bit of blood on their hands as well. They were able to get some, but this time the team in the front was a little too far away, so the Prime, or Team Prime, weren't really able to convert those knockouts into elimination water.
They definitely would not, and now as they're trying to get into the zone and take on the fights of their own, it is going to get tougher and tougher. We've got 11 teams remaining. 20 minutes into the game, the zone is what is absolutely dominating the way these fights are being taken. As we look onto the kill feed, we've got F1 against the players of Equinox and Prime. This team are on a wonderful ride as they take on the players of For Nepali Boys, and as they do so, I mean, it is a pull and push being created between these teams, because there are still third parties that are being brought on from the side of Power Brilliance as well.
Talking about Power Brilliance, still outside Pochinki. They need to make it inside the zone too. A lot of smoke tossed in the front, hoping that maybe that'll block the enemy sight lines. Yeah, these mini smokes should be more than enough too, but the smokes are not covering all the way through Blotter. There's still some open space that they will need to cross through, and that might just be the opening that the enemy team's looking out for. 4 Nepali boys against the players of any Fallen 5, and 4 Nepali boys, they cannot really afford to take any sort of engagements just yet. That's why they're utilizing the utilities, making sure they have a safe distance against them. Team Prime just eliminating the existence of Power Brilliance, but also doing so, they catch a casualty.
Absolutely, Team Prime, they've been able to accumulate 4 elimination points and they are not deterred or undone. But they do have 2 players, only 2 players surviving, so tough position from them. But as it comes to the other teams in the lobby, I mean, they're busy off their own, so this could definitely allow the side of Team Prime. But now, the 2 big names, we've got DE Gangsters up against the players of Doom Esports. Now, DME, they are down and about, and they have the information, but does DE Gangsters have what it takes to stop the side of this Doom into their spray? Because this team, look at the utilities that they're bringing in. They've got all the information, and Fistboy, I mean, that is a perfect placement from his side. A very cheeky play being created from his side, right?
Yeah. Look at Doom. Oh, Doom is not a team you want to straight up go on ahead collision against, because Doom's firepower so far has been looking really good. And Blotter, the circle you wanted to see, the circle shifting out in the open too. This is going to force these teams to step out of their comfort zone, and the circles now is going to be shifted out in the open. A little bit of house is still in contention, but that's not more than enough to just take all these teams in it.
Definitely is true, and you know what, just to add on to that, now we've actually got the side of that team in the mini-map that we can see towards the right. That is the end game. They're here to win the game. They have jumped into the fights. They are going to be bringing in some domination and annihilation. Maybe we shall see, because they've got all 4 players surviving. Fallen 5, sadly, not the case, as we've brought down to 8 teams remaining. The Gangsters, they were looking pretty comfortable a few minutes ago, as they had the safety net of Pachinki and the zone. But as the zone pushed away from their side, things kind of did not go into their favor. But they have definitely utilized what possible opportunity that they were given, and have converted it into 2 elimination points. They're still part of the fight. They're still not yet done, but they need to get out in the open, as we can see, Nixon has done so. But will he get to the safety net? Well, the smoke is going to be helping him brilliantly as he finds that track.
Nixon just tossing some smokes in the front. Good Ice Gangsters just, they spot out smokes. They're trying to take some blind fires, but doing so, they're also exposing their heads, and that's something that's more than enough for a team like Doom to capitalize on. Gangsters, they'll take a knockout. Noob Alliance too. So far they're alive. A lot of teams, actually 5 teams in total, are still alive, and the circle is way too small. That means that if the next circle actually hits the deck, that's when all these teams and all these players will start crumbling down. 15 players in total, and that's such small of a circle. That's insane. MAKPEN is still up too.
Well, MAKPEN is up. The Gangsters are trying their level best as they try and crawl in towards the zone. Definitely not going to be allowed, as we've got Nixon, who was the first man to give away their position, and then it was easy picking for the side of MAKPEN to be able to, if not get those elimination points.
Wow.
Definitely understand that there is a team around in that shack, and in doing so, those perfectly set up nades is going to be bringing an end to the player of Nix, that is from DE Gangsters. But now is the opening that DE Gangsters, 2 other players were waiting for, are in the back. They jumped into the left line game on the spot of their own, but not before ISSL Noob have something to say.
Yeah,
I mean, third parties, fourth parties, this is incredible.
QI's got taken out, and Smokey V2 still inside the shack or near the shack. Noob Alliance, somewhere down line, they have a sense that there is someone right there. So this utility being tossed in, the nade. Maybe if it's on the mark, that'll force him out of his comfort spot. But Smokey V2, so far, he has no intentions of leaving that compound or leaving that hard cover that is found, that shack. That makes sense too. Smokey V2, I mean, he wants to take his chances, but the nade's going to crawl right next to him. He literally saw his death approaching him.
Yep, I definitely did if he did not. And that is all thanks to the end game. And the end game, look at the way they're pushing in with the utilities. This is just incredible. This team is sticking true to their nature, sticking true to their name as they bring in a demise and a dominating play against a reckoning force of this game. That is going to be ISSL Noob Alliance, because they have, look at that, 9 elimination points of their own. So massive game for the side of ISSL Noob Alliance as well. But to damage it all came in the end game, and the end game have 3 elimination points with that push and rush.
Talk about the push and rush. I mean, the end game, yeah, as I said, the end game really loves to rely on their survival instincts, and then in the end, they just go all guns blazing.
Wow.
And that's what the end game did. All 4 players up, they realized the odds are now with them, and that's when the end game decided to strike like a scorpion, and they come out on top with the stinger high in the sky. Did that make sense? I think so, right?
Well, they did so perfectly, mate. It doesn't matter if it was a stinger or if it was just rockin' sloppy, whatever play it was a chicken dinner. A chicken dinner is what matters. A chicken dinner win is what it is going to take, and this team has been consistent in doing that. The only team that has been able to walk away with 2 chicken dinners, not 1, 2 chicken dinners. So,
2, yeah.
An incredible play. Yep, I mean, you can, always bring up the fact that total eliminations are so low. They did not have that many fights. Yeah, it's all right. But they're still, bringing the consistency in terms of the placement points. So it works out either ways. Sitting on that 2nd position. Wow.
I mean, that boosted them up to 2nd spot. That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
That's insane. Dude, the way, I feel like when it comes to end game, they've cracked the code of the lobby of how to get those placement points and how to survive till the end game,
right,
especially when it comes to the map of Erangel.
True. Definitely true, and that is something that they're relying on, I believe, because of the way that the games have played out for them on day number 1, and how we're going to be looking at yet again on day number 2, 3, Erangels, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they definitely have things figured out, and that is what is working for them as well. But a GG play in this final game is what I would say to the entire lobby, because they really did pick up that snail pace that was being showcased in the first Erangel compared to the final one.
I mean, yeah, pace needed to be increased, pace needed to be amped up, and some of those teams were able to successfully do it too. But some teams still, the woes continue, Blotter. And moving on, day 2, only 5 more games in your hands, 5 games taken care of. At this point, I'm not really expecting some insane comebacks. Maybe the top 8 will keep on shuffling, because the top 8 so far looks pretty fragile. But for now, let's take a look at the MVP of the previous game, which was the final game of the day 1.
Absolutely, and that goes towards Mr. Smokey coming in from the DE Gangsters lot, as they have 4 eliminations, or rather, Mr. Smokey has 4 eliminations. Along with that 1 assist, he was able to dish out 701 damage. So, a wonderful play from the side of Mr. Smokey, of course, but I'm sure his teammates, I mean, they were also down in the vicinity. They, in fact, the Gangsters, DE Gangsters, they were set up perfectly till the time that zone moved away from them. And then once that happened, it was, of course, Smokey to the rescue for his team. As we move to the top players list, let's see what other players are we looking at. We've got ISSL Noob Jimmy right there with 5 eliminations on the 2nd, with 472 damage dished out off his own.
I mean, ISSL Noob, yeah, I'm not going to lie, the Noob Alliance was doing a really good job of survival as well in the final game. And this is something that really needs to be carried on forward. And for Nepali boys, though, unfortunately, they were not really able to carry on the torch forward from the game that we saw, which was Sanhok. So they were not really able to replicate the same sort of performance in Erangel, because understandably, those 2 maps are way much more different from each other. Only the fact that is connecting between them is the greenery that they have. But other than that, Sanhok is way smaller compared to Erangel, so the change in the pace is something that definitely did hit them quite hard. But just being good at Sanhok and being able to win that chicken dinner at Sanhok, that's something that they cannot really rely on.
That's true. Moving on to the match summary, let's see if we've got any of those. Wow, we've got the vehicle elimination. Perfect. That is what I did want to see. Only one of the day, in fact, of the 5 games that I've played, only 1 elimination, vehicle elimination is what we've seen. But look at the grenade eliminations this time around. Once again, clearly indicating that when it comes to Erangel, yeah, these boys, they are very hungry for those utility kills. That is for sure.
You've got to be hungry, man, for any sort of kills. But yeah, 9 eliminations this time. That's the highest elimination of the entire day, Plotter. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm not going to lie. I'm loving it. You've got to be hungry for blood, and that's what these teams are doing. 64 knockouts and 58 eliminations in total, as you do have the longest elimination to 287 meters of 6,262 total healings and only 1 vehicle eliminations. An interesting outcome from that game, but the elimination, the grenade eliminations, is something that has really caught my eye.
It has, most certainly, and that is what the match summary had to offer to us when it comes to the insights of how those eliminations were taking place throughout the entirety of the game. And it was a pretty good, quick game, to be fair, but in all of that quickness, it was ISSL Noob Alliance who really caught on to that perfect play, which was to just get those elimination points, walking away with 9 elimination points and the 10 placement points. Definitely a big boost was required from the side of this team, and this final game has given them exactly that. MAKPEN, again, the exact same story card for their side. They definitely needed this sort of a push, and this rush will hopefully push them on tomorrow as well.
Yeah, hopefully this will. And we talked about ending things on a great note on the final one, and the end game, they're able to do it perfectly too. But Noob Alliance, they were able to just excel when it comes to the elimination points. So they got 9 eliminations and total placement points of 10, so that's going to leave them on 19th. So pretty much the end game PS and Noob Alliance tied up in that previous game. When it comes to the point standpoint, not a lot of points acquired from that previous one, huh, Blotter?
That is true. That is true. A little bit of a different spell perhaps being showcased. But overall, all these teams still do have, of course, 5 games tomorrow that will be played. As we move to the next page of this match ranking, we shall see what sort of a play was created for these teams. Flames 1 tried to stand up, and they did so kind of. Fallen 5, in fact, is another name to bring up that had a really good run in the final game for sure, with 4 eliminations and 1 placement point.
Exactly, they did, and that's something they will need to now carry on forward too, moving inside. So Fallen 5 in that previous game, not really that good of a game, but still okay amount of points, I guess. 5 points secured from that one, but tomorrow's day, man, is going to be so crucial. As I said, the top 8 will keep on shuffling around, but the team that will be all the way from 6th to 8th spot, they will need to try on really hard. And talk about the latter half of the board, if they do want to make something happen, it has to be miraculous plays. Nothing else.
Indeed, absolutely. I mean, Grim Gaming Esports, they've had an ups and downs journey today. HellRaiser HR, again, pretty much the same exact case. For Nepali boys, they did have a little bit of a play run through, you know, and then in the final game kind of dwindled down a little bit, which is something that was spoken about at the start of the day as well. We cannot anticipate the same exact team to be able to dominate every single match. There will be ups and downs, but yeah, hopefully not too many. As we move through to the damage draft, let's see if there are going to be too many ups and downs in those towers being created in the pink. And hey, not bad. A consistent kind of an approach as the days progressed on. This, I would say, is pretty much the best damage draft considering all of these teams. But again, yeah, those teams sitting with that 0 elimination points certainly would have hoped to have done it better.
I mean, look at the Gangsters, though. 1,688 damage dealt with 6 elimination points. And then you have ISSL with 9 eliminations and 1,004 damage dealt. And then you have MAKPEN as well, finally stepping up with 6 eliminations at 824. MAKPEN, they're getting a lot of, they're getting a lot of recognition. They're getting a lot of limelight in these games, but they were not really able to get those points flowing in their accounts. And now I feel like finally they're able to show themselves up.
Exactly, and this was very critical of a game for them to be able to show up. And well, again, I mean, final game of the day, you bringing in that sort of a play will definitely boost you and your fans to be able to bring up that gameplay again as the day starts off tomorrow, because tomorrow being the final day, it is going to be that much more crucial and essential. Before we move on to anything else, let's have a look at the storyboard and find out the 5 games that are done. Which teams are sitting on the top? Which teams are going to be at the second half? Look at ISSL Noob Alliance. 1 good game. 9 position jump is what they've got with 35 points.
Exactly.
1 point shy of that 5th position. Just perfect play.
I talked about the top 8 being really fragile, delicate, sensitive, whatever you want to call it. And so far, that's what it is. 1 good game will just catapult you to maybe potentially top 5 too. So the top 8 tomorrow has to be the biggest storyline that we need to watch out from Plotter. But the latter half of the board, man, still the woes continue. some of the teams not able to perform, including 4 Nepali boys. That previous Sanhok game was really good, but in this game of Wrangle, they were not able to perform.
Yep, it's you know what, it's divided right here on the first page. We've got first to fourth playing a game of their own in terms of the points that they've been able to accumulate, very close, but yet too far from that 5th position. And then 5th onwards, I want to see as we move to the next page, how big a leap are we looking at? Are we looking at 4 times 5th to 8, 4 teams? Are we looking at 5th to, well, you know what? I'd say we're looking at 5th to 16th all the way through. There's still a really grand opening and opportunity for these teams to make it into that position, into the, you know, the top 8. But let's see how that will be turned out as we progress with these games, because only 5 games is what these teams are left with to play tomorrow.
As you did mention, only 5 games, not a lot to left with. And cannot make any type of excuses tomorrow, man. You've got to keep the aggression amped up, because especially the latter half of the board, guys, it's do or die. So you would rather die trying than just straight up giving up, right? And just still sticking to your basics. As I said, if plan A is not working out, bring up plan B. And if plan B is not working out, this time it's time to make a plan on the fly.
Exactly. You heard it right here. Necro's giving it all out, and I definitely do believe that thought that in the end, it is going to be very crucial and critical for them to be able to bring up those sort of dynamic plays. You know, I mean, right off the bat, you've got your drop location contested. You've already dropped down to 2-man squad. Well, you've still got an opportunity. You've still got an understanding of how the other teams are playing. Make that rotation count, and there is still a high chance that maybe you might be able to capitalize on those positions. But with that, as we reach to the end of the day, let's have a look at the teams and the way the games were being played from one to the next. From all the way to the start, we of course had these incredible plays thanks to Equinox, as they showcased the chicken dinner right off the bat with 7 elimination points. And again, I mean, the consistency has clearly been showcased from them from one game to the next.
Exactly, Equinox. Today was Equinox's day, ladies and gentlemen. The entire game was dominated by Equinox. That's why we're seeing the entire team card. As you do see Kenzal's too. Kenzal's was actually twice, if I'm not wrong, the last man alive, and he was doing a great job as being the final solo man survivor to East. He was twice in the MVP list as well. Sneaks, he had some nice pop-off moments here and there. And Equinox overall, this entire team, this entire roster, they've been really looking good. All they need to do is find a nice, sweet, consistent spot, and then Equinox might just be one of the best teams out there in Mongolia.
Exactly, and they are definitely racking up those numbers, racking up those points and skills for themselves to be considered exactly by that name. With all that, let's move and have a look at the elimination leaders coming in from the 5 games that these 16 teams have played today. Now, looking at that, of course, we do know that Equinox's name is going to be there, not once, in fact, but twice. We've got Kenzo right there with 15 eliminations of his own, along with his teammate sitting on 10 eliminations on the 4th position. But between them are these 2 different teams.
Oh boy, and of course Doom Esports has to be in there too, right, Blotter? I mean, Doom, they had some nice kill-heavy games, and that's what we're seeing. Doom Esports in here too, finally, and I'm not gonna lie, Doom Esports was another one of those teams that really did impress me personally. D Gangsters, as expected, doing really good. And this is what was expected from a team like D Gangsters, right? Mr. Smokey
right.
B2, as I said, this man did have a lot of confidence. But as I said, please don't be overconfident, because that's something that can not just hurt you, but also your team's performance in the longer run.
Well, we did see that today, and yeah, that was a clip that I'm sure the fans are not going to be very happy. In fact, the team itself is not going to be too happy or impressed by that sort of a gameplay and sheer, misguided approach to the fight itself, where it seemed like he thought the fight had been won and walked in. But of course, that was not the case, as the kitchen was already taken on, and yeah, that was sad to witness. But hopefully that turns into one of those motivators that see that silly mistake can be the enabling play for the entire team. So 5 games, a lot on the stake. Let's be very, very cautious with every step on the way.
You try to make a solo play, I'm not gonna lie. He thought he will be able to single-handedly take out the players in the front, and I feel like he wanted to go for a solo play. But again, you need to realize you have 4 teammates. They are there for a reason. It's a team game, and even though no matter how good you are, I do understand sometimes you just have, as I said, the dopamine flowing through your veins. So you do want to make something happen. You are pretty curious when you feel like you're feeling the moment, but That's what you call overconfident. When you're feeling the moment, when you're feeling yourself, and you make a mistake, that's what you call overconfident.
Exactly, and that overconfidence hopefully does not end up delivering another massive blow to the side of the Gangsters. But hey, that's not the only team that I want to point out. All the teams in the lobby actually had a wonderful day number one is what I will leave it at, because when it came down to the 5th position all the way going down to the 16th position as well, 15th position, the teams, the points aren't really that massive of a difference, and there is a high chance and possibility for the team sitting on the second to push all the way into the top 8. But with that, Necro, any final thoughts for the day, mate?
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, it was a pleasure watching these teams actually duke it out. I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect these teams to be this good at the game. So I'm really impressed by every single team in here, and I just want the competition to even be amped up, and I wish all these teams the best for tomorrow, as it's gonna be the last day where they can try and do something. A do or die moment is gonna be the last day.
Absolutely, you heard it right here. We've got $50,000 on the line for the teams, and in that, we've got these 16 teams across the lobby, across the board, looking very comfortable from Nepal through Pakistan, through Mongolia. I mean, yep, there are from Sri Lanka. I mean, there are so many teams that are here and bringing in some dominating plays, but this domination shall continue at PMCO South Asia tomorrow. Until then, take care, stay awesome, bye-bye.